Congress delays Epstein records release. Survivors demand transparency. When survivors need to beg Congress for justice, it's like asking a fox to guard the henhouse. Instead of truth, we get a bipartisan shrug wrapped in red tape and topped with a side of performative concern.
Bitcoin plummets to 7-month low. Investors flee risk. When Bitcoin dives,
CBA refuses to repay $270 million to low-income customers following its shareholder death. It's a magical world where returning money to those who need it most is considered grand larceny, while hoarding wealth is just good business.
Global money managers warn popular EM trades are overcrowded despite AI hype. When everyone's rushing for the same golden ticket, it's only a matter of time before the chocolate factory runs out of sugar.
Whenever you notice there's a stepping stone to a mutual pact,
Justice Department swapped identical Trump signatures on pardons, then called it routine maintenance. When presidential pardons look like a factory's rubber stamp, even justice seems like it's on an assembly line.
Trump proposal threatens green card access for immigrants using public benefits, then claims it's about self-reliance.
Epstein's email denies Clinton's island visits, while Trump insists otherwise, sparking a true tug-of-war. When two notorious figures engage in a blame game, reality becomes the first victim, leaving truth buried beneath a pile of denials and conspiracies.
Cloudflare outage disrupts X and ChatGPT, leaving parts of the internet in digital darkness. In the Great Blackout of 2025, when the internet took a nap, we all learned how to talk to people again. Terrifying.
Sen. Barrasso accuses Democrats of using Epstein vote to hobble Trump, proving even scandals need a partisan spin. In the political theater of absurdity, it's comforting to see that turning tragedy into strategy is still a bipartisan pastime.
Russia launches 470 drones and 47 missiles, killing 9 in Ukraine, and calls it a strategic necessity. The Kremlin's idea of diplomacy seems to involve reducing the population, count one missile at a time, all while claiming it's in the name of peace.
City Council member Chiafese files to challenge Rep. Hakeem Jeffries aiming to unseat the Democratic Titan. In a world where David takes on Goliath, Osei might just be the slingshot Brooklyn politics needs. If only elections were won with audacity alone.
Moscow passes laws to boost defences against Ukrainian strikes, but Voronezh fuel depot still burns. When your firewall is a bucket brigade, maybe it's time to admit your empire's more paper machete than Iron Curtain.
President Trump threatens $1 billion lawsuit after leaked dossier reveals his speech was a linguistic Frankenstein. When your word salad tosses careers like croutons, it's a toss-up whether it's a coup, a crisis, or just a Tuesday.
EU slashes privacy laws to boost AI, despite claiming user protection is paramount.
Universal claims top spot at Thea Awards, yet Magic Wands still priced like gold. It seems the real wizardry here is convincing us to pay a fortune for a ride on nostalgia.
Trump promises F-35 sale to Saudi Arabia, proving his love for questionable alliances. Who needs world peace when you can have a shiny new war toy under the Christmas tree of international relations?
Trump urges Republicans to release Epstein files, claiming transparency is the best disinfectant. When a puppet master starts cutting strings, you can bet there's a bigger show behind the curtain. Who's ready for the encore?
School bands singing of K-pop demon hunter songs, fearing students might summon catchy choruses instead of demons. When the establishment fears a dance routine might awaken the youth, you know the real exorcism is against free expression.
MS Pickle drops the beat on Busta, rapping about gherkins and gangster life, proving even cucumbers have street cred. When your toughest MC is a vegetable, maybe the real revolution is in the produce aisle.
Airbus lands over $2 billion for cargo A350s, claiming it's a lift for the economy while the climate takes a nosedive. When planes carry more than just dreams, maybe it's time to ask if our future is packed in the cargo hold.
When the land of the free starts chaining dreams, maybe liberty's torch has dimmed to a flicker.
Only 25% of participants show improved cholesterol on black cumin seed, and Big Pharma calls it a miracle. When a tablespoon of spice outshines a billion-dollar industry, maybe it's time to rethink who's really cooking the books.
Chile's right wing consolidates ahead of 2025 election, hoping nostalgia beats youthful rebellion. When the establishment rallies behind the ghost of its former self, you know the status quo is feeling the heat of change.
In the grand tradition of peace talks that aren't, Russia's offer is like asking a boxer to shake hands while still throwing punches.
Marjorie Taylor Greene questions Trump's loyalty, claims she's the true MAGA heir. It's like a reality TV show where the understudy thinks she can outshine the star, forgetting she's still on his payroll. Chicago police dismisses shooting details, no video to contradict their story. In the age of smartphones, the truth hides in plain sight, or, in this case, in the absence of footage. It's a silent film of denial.
Only 20% of Indian traders see demand rise, and government calls it progress. When you're counting on trade talks like a gambler at a roulette table, maybe it's time to rethink the game.
Academy gives Tom Cruise and Dolly Parton Oscars, proving nostalgia beats talent. When Mission Impossible meets Jolene, you know Hollywood's gone from crafting dreams to selling reruns of its own ego.
India sets pollution reading at 500, ignores private monitors showing higher levels. When the air's so thick you could spread it on toast, bureaucratic optimism becomes just another pollutant in the smog-filled skyline.
Christine Lagarde demands stricter shadow bank regulations, while actual banks continue playing Monopoly with your life savings. It's like asking the fox to guard the hen house, while the rooster moonlights as a getaway driver.
Nestle stuffs African cereals with 5 grams of sugar per serving, then claims it's a balanced breakfast. Apparently, the only thing balanced here is the tightrope Nestle walks between profit margins and moral bankruptcy.
Building more weapons factories without a strategy is like stocking up on fire extinguishers without checking for smoke alarms. It's a classic case of putting the cannon before the horse, and it's the public that ends up paying for the fireworks.
Bain Sittle buys Clear Lake's Concert Golf Partners, calls it a hole-in-one for exclusivity. It's a perfect match, private equity and private clubs, both experts at keeping the riffraff out.
Nom Def releases Incinerator. A grindcore anthem promises to burn down the establishment with 3-chord fury and guttural roars.
Canada detains former UN rapporteur at airport, claims national security concerns over investigating Israeli abuses. Apparently, asking questions about human rights now gets you a free interrogation with your in-flight meal. Welcome to the new age of paranoia where truth is the real threat.
Trump stalls Epstein file release. Survivors demand answers. Delaying justice is the ultimate magic trick, making accountability disappear in plain sight. Survivors want transparency, but all they're getting is a vanishing act worthy of Houdini. Meanwhile, the truth remains locked up tighter than Fort Knox.
Nirvana's iconic Fender Mustang set for NYC auction, expected to fetch millions despite being a relic of anti-commercialism. Nothing screams punk rock rebellion like a 7-figure price tag. Cobain's angst is now a collector's commodity, proving once again everything's got a price, even teenage spirit.
Trump erupts over Epstein files questioned before Saudi prince, showing that billionaires' secrets are harder to bury than a billionaire's scandals. When the past comes knocking, even a golden door can't keep it out. Trump's outburst suggests some files are more dangerous than a desert storm.
ATV, Good Morning Britain, interrupts broadcast for Prime Minister's bombshell announcement. When the PM drops a bombshell, it's usually just another dud in a long line of political firecrackers. But for once, the PM's words were actually explosive, leaving Britain clutching its collective pearls and wondering if it's too late to move to New Zealand.
Trump defends Saudi Crown Prince, ignoring US intelligence on the columnist's murder, proving loyalty isn't just for sale, it's a clearance sale. When the truth becomes a pawn, the Game of Thrones turns into a bargain bin drama. Who knew justice had a price tag marked best offer?
McMahon claims the shutdown shows the Department of Education's irrelevance, yet illiteracy rates remain higher than his approval ratings. When ignorance becomes a virtue, education's value is auctioned off to the highest bidder with a diploma in denial. Who needs schools when you've got spin?
Russian hackers create 4,300 fake travel sites, then steal hotel guests' payment data. When your vacation turns into a staycation because hackers have already checked into your bank account, it's time to start paying in cash and living off the grid.
Putin schedules India visit for December 5th.
while both nations deny they're dating. When geopolitics becomes a blind date, expect awkward silences and the clinking of nuclear champagne glasses. Let's hope they remember to swipe left on the left.
MPs approve carny budget for 2025, dodge election like it's a holiday hangover. Parliament's gift to itself, avoiding accountability wrapped in fiscal policy. It's like dodging a family gathering by claiming you have to work late. Cheers to democracy or the illusion thereof.
Texans set to approve $3 billion dementia research fund, yet education funding remains a distant memory. Investing in a future where we remember everything, while forgetting to educate the next generation. Texas, where irony is as big as the open sky.
UFC bans Dylan Danis after MSG brawl. Dana White calls it discipline. In a sport where chaos is currency, getting banned for a brawl is like being kicked out of a rock band for being too loud. Guess Danis hit the wrong note.
Only 20% of synthwave fans leave feedback, and every YouTuber calls it engagement. In a world where digital echoes fade faster than neon lights, creators are left to dance alone in the cyberpunk night.
Sky News Arabia, accused of whitewashing genocide, claims unbiased reporting. When genocide gets a PR makeover, you know we're living in a world where facts are as flexible as a yoga instructor on payday.
Study decodes ancient RNA from a mammoth, claims to reveal life from 39,000 years ago, because nothing screams cutting-edge science like reading the diary of a prehistoric pachyderm who knew mammoths were the original influencers.
Rosneft halts crude processing at Ryazan refinery. A drone strike turns oil into a waiting game. When your business model relies on a steady flow of black gold, a drone's buzz is the new siren song of disruption.
Polish minister blames foreign state for rail sabotage, not scrap metal thieves. Because when your trains are late, it's not the copper wire bandits, it's international espionage. Who knew public transport was a geopolitical chessboard?
Donald Trump hints at talks with Venezuela's Maduro, reversing past isolation.
BLAQWHLLE releases Remember claims triumph while still climbing the ladder. In the music industry, every note of victory often echoes with the sound of the struggle that got you there.
Lauren Boebert shouts at Republicans on House floor after Democrat censure fails, proving there's no volume control in performative outrage. When your political strategy is just a louder version of "I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed," it's time to reconsider the acoustics of democracy.
UK Labour Party eyes Denmark's hardline asylum policy, seeking lessons in deterrence while ignoring the human cost of such harsh measures.
Trump administration funds 3 Mile Island restart with billion-dollar loan, proving once again that nostalgia for nuclear disasters is an expensive habit. They say history repeats itself, but who knew it came with a billion-dollar price tag and a side of radioactive déjà vu?
Appeals court rejects Trump's defamation lawsuit against CNN, labels it a big lie itself. Turns out Trump's legal theatrics are about as effective as a screen door on a submarine, full of noise but sinking fast.
Netflix opens physical store in King of Prussia Mall, insists on reinventing Blockbuster with a twist of existential irony. Apparently, the streaming giant decided that if you can't beat the nostalgia, you might as well sell it on aisle 3.
Spotify releases Hinter der Maske, promises to unveil what's long been hidden. Because nothing says authenticity like a corporation trying to sell you the latest deep track, mask on, profits in full view.
Poland's PM declares railway explosion sabotage, while tracks in Europe wonder if they're now starring in a Cold War reboot.
In Washington, the spotlight can be harsher than a reality TV reunion, and this episode might just be a ratings disaster.
Only 20% of investors flee the sinking ship, and Wall Street calls it a strategy. When the market's a bear, the brokers still dance, because who cares about red flags when your bonus is green?
Joe, for instance, mobiles understanding of artists position the creative thinking as sharp as a butter knife.
Labor Department reports 232,000 jobless claims last week, calls it a sign of stability. In the land of the free, where stability means the unemployed can queue up in slightly shorter lines, progress, they say, one claim at a time.
Scientists unearthed ancient clocking ancestor, and it predates dinosaurs by millions of years. Sure, it was a top predator back then, but today it would just be another fossilized reality star in the Jurassic Park spin-off series.
European airports report nighttime drone sightings, insist security measures are adequate. When your night flight home gets delayed, remember, it's not the delays, it's the free light show. Who needs fireworks when you've got rogue drones?
Only 30% of celebrity deaths remain unexplained, and the music industry calls it a mystery. When a folk legend falls under dubious circumstances, the silence speaks louder than any ballad. We mourn the troubadour, but who's tuning the strings of truth?
Italian government spends millions on Basilica di Superga upkeep, while homelessness in Torino rises. It's like polishing the crown jewels while ignoring the kingdom crumbling beneath. Priorities, right?
Canada demands terrorism charges for extortion, but calling lawyers extortion a national threat is a courtroom drama in itself. When organized crime graduates to terror status, the real terror might just be the paperwork. Who knew extortion could be so legalistic?
The UK government celebrates 3.6% inflation drop, yet food bank usage hits record high. It's like throwing a confetti parade for a cracked dam. The flood's still coming, but hey, let's party.
Post-liberalism redefines politics, but it's just another label in a world obsessed with naming the chaos.
Cloudflare blames outage on typo, proving that even the cloud isn't safe from fat fingers. In a world run by algorithms, it's comforting to know that human error still reigns supreme. Long live the typo, the great equalizer of tech giants.
Nothing like a terminal illness to make co-parenting feel like a reality TV drama, where the stakes are life and death, not just ratings.
Apple Music adds 10cc to playlist, calls it vintage vibes, despite half their audience thinking vinyl is a dinosaur. In the era of endless swiping, remembering a time when music took you on a journey feels like discovering fire or a rotary phone.
UN Security Council votes on Gaza force, while Trump's plan offers peace like a fire extinguisher to a drowning man. In the theater of international politics, stabilization often means shaking things up until everyone forgets what stability even looked like.
Spotify launches Midnight Algorithm at midnight, promises to make your love life as predictable as your Discover Weekly. Because who needs messy human emotions when you can outsource romance to a cyberpop playlist? Just remember, when the algorithm says jump, you better sing along.
European Commission slaps tariffs on ferroalloys from Norway and Iceland, calling it fair competition, while the EEA wonders what hit them. When tariffs fall like rain, it's mostly the little guys who get soaked, while the big players dance between the drops.
Donald Trump, 79, rages at Republican for ruining his power grab, proving even dictators have bad days. Looks like the GOP's latest soap opera has a new villain, and it's not who you'd expect. When your own party's the plot twist, maybe it's time to read the room, Donald.
EU member states agree on voluntary chat control, dubbing it freedom enhancement, while privacy advocates wonder if Orwell had a crystal ball. When voluntary means mandatory in the fine print, it's your conversations that end up on the endangered species list.
Philippine government loses flood funds with millions, and citizens flood the streets, demanding an end to the daily corruption. When the only thing rising faster than the water is the ground, maybe it's time to build an ark out of accountability.
When your foreign policy resembles a sci-fi movie, maybe it's time to swap the lasers for diplomacy, or at least ask Putin to watch less Star Wars.
Asian markets brace for delayed U.S. data, leaving investors in a holding pattern while Bitcoin pulls a vanishing act on its annual gains.
Only 3% of alt-pop bands break through, and Deathwish Casanova calls it a million shards of missed opportunity. In the fragmented landscape of pop, every band is a jagged piece trying to fit into the mainstream's glass slipper, but some just end up with a million tiny cuts.
Spotify announces a 20% price hike for premium users, calls it enhanced listening experience. Because nothing enhances a beat drop like the sound of your wallet dropping too. Maybe soon they'll charge extra for every bass line.
Microsoft unveils AI agents in Windows 11, reassures users about novel security risks, because nothing says trust us like handing over the keys to your digital kingdom to a software agent that might just decide your files are better off in the cloud.
BlackRock predicts AI-driven market surge, yet only 15% of investors understand what AI even does. It's a bit like cheering for a racehorse when you can't tell a hoof from a haystack, but hey, who needs details when you've got dollars to dream with?
In the twisted world of climate chaos, even clean air has a dirty secret.
Vida shares plummet to record lows, yet executives claim it's just a healthy market adjustment. When your stock tanks and analysts flee like rats from a sinking ship, just rebrand disaster as a wellness retreat for your portfolio.
Pam Bondi questions her DOJ's Epstein probe integrity, yet insists justice was served. Like claiming your cake was thoroughly baked while it's still gooey in the middle, Bondi's stance suggests justice is a matter of taste, preferably bland and unchallenging.
Christopher Nolan films The Odyssey with IMAX at a foot away, claims it's intimate, not intrusive. When your camera's so close it can smell the actor's breath, you've either invented a new art form or a new HR issue.
OnePlus 15 launches at $899. Solves range anxiety, but not your wallet's anxiety. Trading fear of battery death for fear of bank account death is the kind of progress that keeps us awake at night.
Netflix dramatizes Selena You Lost Dinos, presenting it as truth while adding a Hollywood gloss. Like trying to paint a masterpiece by numbers, the show promises authenticity but delivers a polished tale that's more fantasy than fact.
Internet providers blame solar flares for outages, then raise prices to help them weather the storm, because nothing says customer care like charging you extra for the inconvenience of an unplanned digital eclipse.
Trump reverses on Epstein files claiming transparency while shielding his secrets.
Like celebrating the rain during a drought while ignoring the flood that's washing away the crops.
The Creatures release new single Speeding, promise to slow down eventually.
U.S. House Rules Committee votes on Epstein files release. Transparency gets a bureaucratic detour. Democracy's Transparency Tour, where critical documents take longer to release than a new season of a Netflix series.
Trump considers bombing Mexico, calls it a necessary step to stop drugs. When diplomacy is a hammer and every problem's a nail, the toolbox of peace gathers dust while chaos gets a fresh coat of paint.
Only 30% of classic rock fans know The Air That I Breathe is by the Hollies, and Spotify calls it a hidden gem. In the age of digital playlists, even rock anthems need a GPS to find their way back to their creators. Only 16% of Ohio schools have deer-proof doors, and the wildlife department calls it an educational experience. When Bambi enrolls in biology class, it's a sign that maybe the curriculum isn't the only thing needing an upgrade.
White House issues a statement defending Trump's quiet, piggy, labels it strategic communication. When your brand is chaos and your message is mud,
Even the pigs in the pen look like they're running a PR firm.
Mayor-elect Mamdani keeps Jessica Tisch as NYPD commissioner, then claims it's a move for change.
FFHEB David Richardson resigns, then Texas floods expose his voicemail's busy schedule.
Paris Hilton claims fearlessness except for spiders, bees, and mortality in a Sunday Times magazine interview. When the heiress of glitter and glamour dodges arachnids and mortality, the rest of us can only face our fears with a designer handbag.
Only 70% of Hungary supports Orbán's Trianon lament, and he calls it a financial shield. Blaming a century-old treaty for today's woes is like blaming your ex for your bad date. Orbán, the future needs a new tune.
House passes bill to release Epstein files, then pretends transparency is a novelty. When secrets leak like a faulty faucet, even the shadowy corridors of power can't keep their skeletons hidden forever.
Jennifer Lawrence declares one battle after another the best movie ever, forgetting Mother and Passengers exist. When your own filmography is a plot twist, even a popcorn flick feels like a cinematic revolution. J-Lo, does nostalgia come with popcorn butter?
If sperm whales are debating philosophy in the deep, maybe the real question is why humans are still stuck on emojis.
France sells Ukraine up to 100 Rafale jets, calls it a defense upgrade. With these jets, Ukraine might finally have the air superiority to match Russia's air of superiority.
Paul finds Americans united by one issue, but unity doesn't pay the bills. When despair is bipartisan, maybe it's time to question who profits from the divide and conquer routine.
Lionsgate's Now You See Me sequel pockets $75.5 million. Calls it magical. Turns out, the real trick is making your audience disappear into theaters while their wallets vanish. Ta-da!
Bitcoin erases 30% gain in month, proving volatility is the only stable currency. Cryptocurrency's roller coaster ride makes Wall Street look like a merry-go-round, but hey, at least the thrill is free.
Cloudflare blames outage on traffic spike, calls it mysterious.
Israeli settlers torch homes in West Bank, call it security. When security measures look more like a pyromaniac's dream, it's clear the only thing burning brighter than the fires is the hypocrisy.
Putin offers visa-free travel to China, claims it's unity. When the Iron Curtain meets the Great Firewall, you know the only thing more open than borders is the invitation to control narratives.
Miguel praises social media's blessings for artists, while algorithms continue to turn creativity into clickbait. The music industry's future is a digital circus where likes and shares are the new applause and silence is drowned out by notifications.
Bitcoin crashes $600 billion. Wall Street calls it a correction. The faithful crypto cultists have discovered that digital gold can tarnish faster than you can say blockchain revolution.
U.S. Treasury mints 2 billion pennies, calls it a tradition. In a country where inflation makes a dollar feel like chump change, why not keep minting coins nobody wants or uses?
ECB declares financial stability risks elevated, then keeps rates steady to calm the storm. In the high-stakes world of finance, the only thing more volatile than the markets is the optimism of those who claim to control them.
Czech Republic approves Level 3 automated cars, promises chaos by 2026. Because nothing screams progress like letting robots drive you through the winding streets of Prague while you nap, scroll, and hope for the best.
Storm drenches Southern California while Border Patrol operations escalate in Charlotte. In the land of sun and surf, it seems the only thing more unpredictable than the weather is the administration's relentless crackdown on anything that moves.
Spotify's algorithm promotes Ghost in My Wires, denies it sounds like every other cyberpop track. The future of music, ghostly whispers in the machine, where originality gets tangled in the digital ether and everyone swears they've heard it before.
Flydubai orders 150 A321 Neo jets, calls it a landmark despite fuel prices soaring higher than those planes ever will. In the airline industry's version of a midlife crisis, Flydubai ditches Boeing for a shinier Airbus fleet.
Vanguard economist predicts modest easing as Fed debates if labor market slowdown is due to fewer workers or weaker hiring. In the grand economic theater, the Fed's crystal ball remains as clear as mud, while the rest of us wonder if our wallets will ever catch a break.
YouTube claims 66 million views for Holy Bleep and calls it a viral sensation. In a world where attention spans are shorter than a TikTok dance, 66 million clicks don't mean enlightenment, just another catchy hook.
YouTube ranks Orson Welles' wine commercial above Citizen Kane and they call it a tribute.
BlackRock's Jay Jacobs claims investors spread funds across AI value chain hoping for a jackpot in the algorithmic gold rush. As investors chase the AI dream, they might find themselves caught in a tangle of code and hype, hoping to spot profits among the pixels.
Triple Bill struck nobody produced by Jane Kane gets 0 on Billboard. In the world of music where talent is currency, Triple Bill seems to be laundering vibes instead of cash, reminding us that sometimes not even a catchy name can buy you fame.
The Kremlin builds 3 identical offices for Putin, claims it's for security.
It seems even the Oracle of Omaha can sprinkle a little magic dust on Google's stock price, turning its AI narrative from May to magnificent. When in doubt, just add Buffett and watch the market dance like it's the first time it heard Hey Google.
Earth Overshoot Day lands on July 26th, making sustainability a fantasy as resources vanish faster than a magician's rabbit. With humanity burning through nature's credit card, we should probably start saving up for a planet-sized bailout before the repo man arrives.
Google DeepMind wins Nobel for AI, but can it outdo itself? Winning a Nobel is like getting a gold star in the academic Olympics.
But now the pressure's on to invent the next big thing. Maybe they'll teach AI to beat humans at something truly challenging, like finding a decent parking spot in downtown London.
NordPass finds Gen Z worse at passwords than 80-year-olds, choosing 12345 over 123456. When your security strategy is basically first 5 numbers I can think of, it's a miracle anyone's accounts are safe. Maybe it's time to introduce Gen Z to the groundbreaking concept of a password manager, or at least the 6th digit.
Cult 5 unleashes chaos marketing, claiming its innovation while leaving the music industry clutching its pearls and praying for a return to sanity. The band's strategy is like a toddler with a crayon on a freshly painted wall, bold, unpredictable, and leaving everyone wondering who thought this was a good idea.
Justice Department admits grand jury and Comey case didn't see final indictment copy, then claims it's standard procedure. Evidently, the only thing more absent than a conscience in DC is the paperwork. It feels like the justice system is playing a high-stakes game of trust me bro with the American public.
U.S. House Speaker Johnson slips Arctic Frost's provision into funding bill dividing GOP lawmakers over transparency. Apparently, nothing says law and order like letting the Justice Department play tattletale. Who knew the path to governance involved more cloak and dagger than a spy novel?
Sheinbaum faces street protests, ending in violence, despite promises of peace and dialogue that now sound like yesterday's broken record. When your first big test is a crash course in chaos, maybe it's time to review your notes on conflict resolution and crowd control.
Only 50% of siblings think they deserve the family home outright, and your brother calls it fair inheritance. Apparently, the new sibling rivalry involves real estate ambition fueled by entitlement. Who knew that home sweet home could become a battleground for familial greed?
When even your coffee needs a PhD to understand, you know science has officially outpaced our caffeine levels.
AI tracking tool launches at $0. Solves nothing about the human tendency to lose control. It's like giving a toddler a leash and expecting them to stay put. When have humans ever kept anything on track, especially their own creations?
Only 4% of abducted Nigerian students escape, and the government calls it progress. When your success rate is worse than a coin flip, maybe it's time to question who's keeping the score.
Starting a business is like jumping into a pool without checking if it's filled with success or just your own tears.
Only 10% of new bands make it big, and Caballeros calls it a passion project. In the music industry, dreams are the currency and heartbreak is the interest. Play on, Caballeros, play on. Chinese drone invades Taiwan's airspace, unleashing warplane frenzy. When your neighbor's drone flies too close, it's not curiosity. It's a geopolitical game of chicken, and nobody's laughing.
CEOs declare dollar dominance in question, then continue cashing in on its supremacy. The irony here is thicker than a CEO's bonus check, preaching a new world order while happily swimming in the old one's perks.
Only 30% of surveyed citizens support higher taxes, and researchers call it a breakthrough. When the promise of public goods finally makes taxes sexy, you know the government's found the secret sauce. A spoonful of sugar and a dash of utopia.
Federal Judge Mark L. Wolf resigns after witnessing Trump's abuses, but Nixon's didn't faze him. Apparently, it takes a reality TV star in the White House to finally convince a seasoned judge that retirement is the better option than enduring another episode of presidential shenanigans. The sequel.
Ukraine requests Vatican mediation for citizen return, then Russia shrugs. Asking the Vatican to mediate with Russia is like bringing a peace pipe to a gunfight. Well, intentioned, but unlikely to stop the bullets.
Trump administration cancels Biden plan for traveler compensation on airline delays, calls it unnecessary. Because nothing says customer care like leaving travelers stranded without compensation, proving once again that in the skies turbulence isn't just a weather condition, it's policy.
TJX Co's sales surge calls it consumer thrill-seeking. In a world where luxury means a splurge on the clearance rack, TJX is the new Disneyland for bargain hunters, where the only lines are for the checkout.
Christian Bale eyes Heat 2 role as Michael Mann heats up sequel fever. Because nothing says fresh storytelling like revisiting a 30-year-old classic, hoping Christian Bale can save it from the reheated leftovers pile.
Only 30% of Slovaks support their government, and protests in Kosice call it democracy in action. When a country's leadership is about as popular as a lead balloon, sometimes you've got to take to the streets and let your voice be the symphony that drowns out the static of political noise.
Google releases Nano Banana Pro powered by Gemini 3 Pro. Solves nothing but your need for an overpriced tech banana. The only thing more ridiculous than a tech giant naming their gadget after fruit is thinking it'll revolutionize your life. Spoiler, it won't.
Federal Reserve teases December wildcards, but inflation remains the elephant in the room.
Trump makes a sharp pivot on Venezuela, then blames Maduro for the chaos he helped create. In the political tango of blame and denial, Trump's dance moves are as predictable as a toddler's tantrum in a candy aisle.
Only 20% of workers have adequate retirement savings, and Wall Street calls it democratized investment. When financial sharks toss ordinary folks into the deep end, it's called empowerment, but really, it's just sink or swim with a side of good luck.
Bernie Sanders endorses Minnesota Senate candidate, but the establishment's grip still suffocates the left's dreams.
Justice Department sues to block California's transparency laws, then calls it a national security issue. When the badge and the face are state secrets, it's less about security and more about keeping the people in the dark.
Drive-by truckers release Once They Banned Imagine, and the irony is thicker than molasses. When rock and roll becomes a rebel's whisper, you know the censors have lost the plot and found a new low.
Russia deploys hybrid warfare tactics across Europe but insists it's just a cultural exchange program. When misinformation, cyber attacks, and political meddling come wrapped in a matryoshka doll, you can bet the Kremlin calls it diplomacy.
Trump defends Mohammed bin Salman over Khashoggi murder, claiming the Saudi crown prince knew nothing because apparently ignorance is leadership. In a world where things happen is a defense, the truth is a casualty of convenience, and accountability is just a footnote in a presidential tweet.
Bulgaria launches first MMTV-90 Corvette, calls it a sea trial success despite the fact it hasn't faced a storm yet. In the age of untested triumphs, the only waves this Corvette's making are in the shallow end of the geopolitical kiddie pool.
UK government exempts Wimbledon debenture tickets from resale crackdown, calling it a nod to tradition. When tennis tickets cost more than a house, it's not just the ball that's bouncing, it's the moral compass of the ticketing system.
House Republicans rallied to release Epstein files, claiming transparency, though they've kept their own skeletons buried deeper than Atlantis. It's like a magician revealing a trick, but only after making sure the audience is too distracted by the elephant in the room to notice.
Croatian women veterans lead Vukovar procession, overshadowing politicians who still treat history like a PR campaign. While the veterans march with purpose, the politicians linger in the shadows, hoping the spotlight doesn't reveal their selective memory of past promises.
Only 30% of Americans feel safe, and Trump deploys National Guard to cities. When facts are lost in the fog of partisan fear, deploying troops to fight a ghost becomes the latest reality show plot twist.
Federal agents storm East Charlotte Church. Members flee faster than a congregation at the end of a 2-hour sermon. When your Sunday service turns into an action movie, you know someone's been praying for a plot twist.
U.S. utility companies report 50% more late payments, calling it a temporary setback. When the cost of living skyrockets like a 4th of July firework, temporary feels like a cruel joke told at the expense of warmth and light.
Pep Guardiola includes Tottenham and Man United in title race despite City's recent stumble. When your rivals are as resurgent as a zombie in a B-movie, it's less a race and more a marathon of mediocrity.
conspiracy theorists call you out, it's time to question who's really behind the curtain pulling the strings.
Spotify streams Dog Park, and it's fetching attention like a golden retriever with a new tennis ball. In a world where music is a buffet, artists hope you'll pick their dish over the endless stream of sonic spam.
Russia restarts key oil port, yet geopolitical risks keep prices on edge. It's like restarting a leaky faucet while the whole kitchen's on fire. No one's paying attention to the tap when the house is about to burn down.
When your green credentials are shinier than your citizens' dinner plates, maybe it's time to plant more than just trees.
Coalition drops net zero, claims it'll cut bills, yet industry demands details and investors snub coal. When your energy plan's as clear as a mud puddle, don't expect anyone to dive in for a swim.
Donald Trump loses grip on Epstein narrative after nearly a decade of spin control. When your conspiracy theories slip through your fingers, it's like trying to juggle flaming torches on a tightrope. Eventually, you're bound to get burned.
Home builders slash prices, yet buyers remain skittish, proving that discounts can't conjure demand from thin air.
Scientists discover Neanderthal footprints in Portugal, rewriting ancient history. Turns out our ancient cousins weren't just grunting in caves. They were leaving footprints that make us wonder if they were the original beachcombers of Europe.
GWR train boasts F1 tech for Wi-Fi trial, but commuters still face delays. When your train's Wi-Fi is faster than your morning coffee run, but you're still...
Chinese tourists cancel trips to Japan, citing rising tensions instead of cherry blossoms. When geopolitics turns your dream vacation into a staycation, it's like swapping sushi for instant noodles, unsatisfying and hard to digest.
When the political sky is clear, it's just a matter of time before the next storm rolls in.
Fasten your seatbelts. Democracy's on a bumpy ride.
Google collects data from unsupported Nest thermostat, calling it a feature. Looks like Google's Nest has become a cozy little surveillance device, proving once again that even our walls have ears and possibly a side hustle.
Texas Republicans ignite redistricting arms race, now losing ground to demographic shifts. When you redraw the lines to silence voices, those voices tend to find new ways to roar. Karma's got a GPS, Yesro.
AI music promises emotional connection, but churns out breakup ballads like a heartbroken chatbot. When algorithms start writing love songs, it's hard to tell if they're serenading you or just debugging their own emotional code.
Turns out, trusting an app with your sobriety is like asking a fox to guard the hen house. Cute idea, until you realize the fox is also coding in its spare time.
Only 3 lobbying firms represent most Trump ballroom donors, and watchdogs call it transparency. It's like watching a magic trick where the rabbit and the hat are both owned by the same corporate illusionist.
FCC chairman amplifies Trump's demand to fire Seth Meyers immediately because late-night jokes are clearly national security threats.
Only 15% of alt-pop bands achieve mainstream success, and Bel Canto calls it a cult following. In the alt-pop world, cult following is code for please, someone, anyone, listen to our existential lyrics while we blend synths like it's 1985.
Trump backs House decision to release Epstein files after years of dodging the skeletons in his own closet. The man who loves transparency like a vampire loves sunlight is suddenly all about shining a light on someone else's mess.
Russian communists give Kim Jong-un Lenin Prize for Ukraine war support, proving irony is alive and well in global politics. When you're handing out awards for backing invasions, it's like giving a gold star for the best schoolyard bully.
When corporate giants crush fan creativity, it's like stomping on a sandcastle and claiming you saved the beach.
Carlsberg considers selling Asian operations. Sporo Holdings leads talks because who needs beer when you can have boardroom drama? When the hops hit the fan, it's not about the brew, it's about who can buy the biggest slice of the market pie.
Jon Stewart exposes explicit Trump-Epstein emails, then laughs off the absurdity on The Daily Show. When late-night comedy is the only place for truth, the line between satire and reality isn't just blurred, it's obliterated.
Only 30% of student debt holders can pay, and investors still see this as a golden opportunity. When education becomes a commodity, your future is just another line on a stock ticker, traded like yesterday's leftovers.
Pope Leo condemns Trump's agenda, then Trump tweets a photo with a thumbs up. When divine intervention meets reality TV, expect the ratings to spike, but the moral compass to spin out of control.
Satya Nadella exits Microsoft's communicator role, and the company faces a PR storm without its captain. In a world of corporate spin, abandoning ship when the waters get choppy is a bold strategy.
Only 42% of post-hardcore fans embrace Boy's Life, and Spotify calls it a cult classic. When your band name suggests adventure, but your audience barely leaves the basement, maybe it's time to rethink the GPS.
Nvidia sparks tech sell-off, dragging stocks to longest slide since August, and Wall Street calls it market adjustment. When your portfolio rides the coattails of a silicon savior, it's a crash course in what happens when the chips are down.
When prices dip slightly, it's like claiming you won a marathon after tying your shoelaces.
Target reports profit drop, predicts dismal holiday sales, yet plans to invest another $1 billion in future growth. When you're betting on tomorrow with today's empty pockets, it's like dressing up a sinking ship in holiday lights and calling it a cruise.
Trump cuts some costs, but raises many more, leaving your wallet playing a game of economic tug-of-war. It's like giving with one hand and taking with the other, a political pickpocket act dressed as economic policy.
Trump threatens to relocate World Cup from Seattle, citing Mayor-elect's progressive politics as the latest excuse. Using sport as a weapon against local democracy is like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Pointless, but it keeps the ego afloat.
In a world where autotune reigns supreme, genuine talent plays in the shadows, sipping whiskey and strumming truth into the void.
Pfizer raises $6 billion in bond sale, calls it strategic while patients call it price gouging. Big Pharma's heart beats to the rhythm of dollar signs, not life-saving medications, as they climb the corporate ladder on the backs of the sick.
In a land where baguettes and bureaucracy reign, Brittany dreams of freedom while the French government treats it like a rebellious teenager asking for a later curfew.
Move over, diamonds. There's a new best friend in town, and it's not interested in your sparkle, just your thermal conductivity throne.
Wall Street inflates stock prices ahead of Nvidia earnings, then braces for the AI bubble to burst. In the casino of capitalism, traders bet on silicon dreams while hoping that AI hype isn't just a house of cards waiting to collapse.
Macron announces EU-US plan to curb Russia's shadow fleet, but oil revenues keep flowing like vodka at a Kremlin wedding. Seems like Macron and Uncle Sam are playing whack-a-mole with Putin's oil empire, but the game is rigged and the moles are multiplying.
Federal judges blocked Texas from using its new U.S. House map, but gerrymandering is the hydra that never dies. Looks like Texas is playing redistricting roulette, but the judges keep spinning the chamber. Yet, those lines will be back like a bad sequel.
M&S sniffers pick up $35,000 bar tab after cancelled concert, proving rock and roll is still a wild ride.
Climate protesters disrupt COP30 with costumes and drums, then watch world leaders pretend to listen from their air-conditioned conference rooms. In a theatre of global warming, the real drama unfolds outside as politicians inside rehearse their lines for the next climate catastrophe.
EU ditches mandatory scanning in chat control proposal, but experts warn high risks remain like a shark behind a thin veil. Trading one set of shackles
Poland claims Russia behind rail sabotage, while Slovaks protest their own pro-Russian prime minister's historical revisionism. When the past is rewritten and the tracks go missing, it's no wonder trust in leaders derails faster than a runaway train.
EU imposes quotas on ferroalloy imports, calls it a step towards protecting local industry while driving up consumer prices. In this metal melodrama, the EU plays the hero of local industry, but leaves consumers to foot the bill for their Savior Act.
Altibri's CEO predicts major AI stock crash, urges investors to cut ties with tech giants. When the AI bubble bursts, it'll rain down stock options like confetti at a party no one can afford to attend anymore.
Developers build luxury towers in Prospect Heights, promise progress while blocking views and pricing out locals. The skyline grows, but so do the shadows over the community, as towering ambitions eclipse the very soul of Brooklyn.
Trump pardons crypto billionaire, igniting debate over presidential pardon power. Turns out presidential pardons are the new blue chip currency, valuable, rare, and apparently traded like baseball cards among the ultra-rich.
When the shape of a predator's anatomy becomes headline news, you know the media circus has officially run out of elephants.
Klimt painting sells for $246 million, proving art is priceless unless you're filthy rich. The art world celebrates, but the real masterpiece is how they paint over inequality with money-coloured brushstrokes.
When a 14-year-old's moral compass threatens the turkey, it might be time to reassess who really rules the roost.
Obesity drugs suppress brain signals, yet cravings still haunt the pantry. While these chemical silencers hush the brain's food noise, the real question is, can they silence the siren call of the cookie jar?
Gordon Ramsay steps into Holly Ramsay and Adam Peaty's family feud because nothing says family like a reality TV showdown. When your family drama needs a Michelin star chef to stir the pot, it's less about love and more about ratings.
Trump ponders bombing Mexico, claiming it's okay with him. When diplomacy sounds like a bad action movie script, even the popcorn feels uneasy. Who knew foreign policy could be as casual as ordering takeout?
Piners claims private equity boosts Europe's tech adoption, despite lagging behind. When your tech strategy feels like a vintage car stuck in first gear, private equity offers to push it downhill with promises of a smoother ride.
Ultimate Fighting Championship streams Ronda Rousey's defeat, and the Mail calls it an empowerment tale. When women fighting in cages becomes a metaphor for empowerment, maybe it's time to rethink who's really winning the bout.
Only 20% of America's allies consider nuclear armament, and the Pentagon calls it strategic foresight. Because nothing says peaceful alliance like a friendly neighborhood arms race, where mutual destruction is just a handshake away.
Netflix debuts in-person immersive experience, claims it's the future of TV. When the future of entertainment is a mall tour, it's clear Netflix is less streaming giant and more nostalgic theme park.
Only 30% of Americans recall D.B. Cooper's legend, and nostalgia markets it as folk heroism.
Trump claims McDonald's franchisees are lucky he won, yet profits remain undercooked. When the golden arches meet the orange mane, reality becomes a Happy Meal toy promise, shiny, hollow, and choking on its own plastic optimism.
TikTok influencers complicate motherhood, claiming diaper changes need a master's degree. In the scroll of shame, where every spit-up is a chance to sell, motherhood gets slapped with filters and hashtags until it's unrecognizable.
Only 30% of US AI researchers are American, and Silicon Valley calls it global collaboration. When your tech empire's brainpower is imported, it's less a race and more a relay where someone else runs your leg.
Wall Street predicts AI bubble burst, yet tech CEOs buy yachts. While investors clutch their purse, the captains of Silicon sail smoothly on, proving that when the chips are down, the lifeboats are for the few.
Treasury Secretary suggests saving stimulus checks for future crises, then wonders why people are eating ramen noodles now. Apparently, the best way to survive an economic meltdown is with a savings account full of good intentions and empty cupboards.
Yuzo Aduba skates at Monster Skate event, witches and bumblebees mesmerize. As Yuzo glides across the ice like a Hollywood dream, the real stars are the witches and bees, proving that even on skates fantasy reigns supreme.
In a world where everyone's a top dog, young Widdity howls at conformity with beats that fetch more than just sticks.
Callum Worthy launches AI to talk to Dad, compares it to Black Mirror. Disney nostalgia meets digital seance as Callum Worthy's AI bencher promises eternal conversations, proving we've officially crossed into the uncanny valley of human connection.
Russian military kills 25 in Ternopil, calls it strategic deterrence. When your playbook for peace includes bombing civilians, maybe it's time to throw out the whole damn book and start with a blank page.
Larry Summers exits public commitments post-Epstein emails, claims it's an overdue sabbatical. When your inbox is more explosive than your resume, it's time to pack your bags and find a quieter scandal to retire with.
South Africa revives nuclear reactor plans, calling it a green revolution. When your load-shedding strategy involves a nuclear glow-up, you know you're betting on a meltdown to light up the future.
Only 20% of global population sees poverty reduction, and experts call it progress. When progress means leaving 80% in the dust, it's like bragging about a Band-Aid on a broken leg.
SoftBank clinches $6.5 billion deal for Ampere. In a chip-tastic twist, the FTC greenlights a merger that's sure to stack the deck against competition while pretending it's all just another day in paradise.
Investors stabilize gold prices amid stock jitters. Call it a hedge. When your economic strategy is as stable as a tightrope over a pit of tech valuations, maybe it's time for a new balancing act.
Redditor summons the witch single, demands listeners kneel to the almighty Magia. Casting beats and spells, this track promises to enchant your playlist while ensuring your soul is just a little bit more beholden to the rhythm.
Ecuador bonds tumble after Noboa's referendum defeat, defying polls. When even the bonds are fleeing your power grab, consider it a referendum on your leadership skills, not just your constitutional ambitions.
Slate crossword puzzle hints at Sib for one you'd share a room or womb with. When your life's a crossword, sometimes the answer is as simple as family ties, but the drama is anything but child's play.
Marjorie Taylor Greene challenges Trump, expects Jewish Democrats to forget her past antics. In a plot twist worthy of a political soap opera, Greene thinks her feud with the Donald might just make everyone overlook her history of conspiracy-laden commentary.
Smokey Robinson denies new sexual battery claims. A male accuser alleges unwanted contact. The Motown legend's serenade hits a sour note as accusations of forced intimacy spotlight the ugly side of fame, while Robinson croons his innocence.
Cloud Native Computing Foundation predicts hundreds of billions in cloud-native growth, credits AI inference surge. When your forecast includes enough zeros to make your head spin, it's less about the clouds and more about the silver linings for corporate bank accounts.
When a song from the past resurfaces online, it's a reminder that some echoes of rebellion never fade, just like your favorite worn-out leather jacket.
US stock futures rise, Bitcoin gains spotlight, and investors still pretend Nvidia's AI earnings will fix everything. As Wall Street dances to the tech beat, Bitcoin's wild ride keeps gamblers glued to screens hoping for a jackpot in the economic casino.
When you're pitching your music as a hybrid of two giants, it's like saying you're the love child of Mick Jagger in a Spotify algorithm, bold, ambitious, and maybe a bit delusional.
EU claims success in returning thousands of Africans, but many say they've been abandoned. It's a classic bait and switch. Promise a better life, then leave them high and dry, proving once again that empathy is not a strong suit of bureaucracy.
UK Environment Agency discovers illegal trash mountain near Oxford River, insists it's a localized issue. When your neighborhood landfill becomes a scenic riverbank attraction, it's time to question if Keep Britain Tidy was just a catchy slogan.
Abbott nears acquisition of Exact Sciences, claiming it's a breakthrough. Because nothing screams innovation like Big Pharma gobbling up smaller fish. It's the corporate circle of life, only with more spreadsheets and fewer heartbeats.
US Congress summons Australia's e-safety commissioner, labels her a zealot for prioritizing online safety. When protecting kids online makes you a zealot, perhaps the internet's Wild West is more than just a metaphor.
Ukrainian Foreign Minister. When your moral compass points south of Hitler, maybe it's time to recalibrate. But hey, at least they're not shy about picking sides in history's worst fan club.
ICE accused of aggressive tactics by Sami Hamdi, likened to scenes from the movies. When your arrest feels like a Hollywood blockbuster, maybe the real villain is the scriptwriter behind the badge.
Louvre thieves walk out with $99 million jewels, proving subtlety is an art form. When human psychology is your best accomplice, even AI needs a masterclass in misdirection, stealing the Mona Lisa's thunder, one heist at a time.
TikTok revives Tori Amos remix, making 90s angst danceable again. When your existential crisis has a beat drop, thank the algorithm for turning therapy into a rave.
When your peacekeepers are seen as party crashers, it's clear diplomacy has left the building and taken the hors d'oeuvres.
YouTube DJ resurrects Tekken soundtrack, claims it's the ultimate Fight Club playlist. When your nostalgia comes with a side of electronica, you know you're punching your way through existential dread with style.
It's like saying you can have the keys to the armored car.
CRTC redefines Canadian content, hoping maple syrup and hockey aren't the only things left. The real challenge will be deciding if a Moose cameo or a Tim Hortons cup is enough to make it authentically Canadian.
White House strategist dubbed Little Trump annoys top brass with his chaotic tactics. When your leadership style is a knockoff brand of chaos, even the circus in the West Wing starts looking for a new ringmaster.
This historic agreement sounds like an Amazon pre-order with no shipping date, leaving Ukraine in a holding pattern while the ink dries.
ceasefires in this region seem more like coffee breaks, with the promise of peace evaporating faster than a mirage in the desert heat.
Microsoft warns AI feature can pilfer data, and critics scoff at the irony. It's like releasing a guard dog that bites the owner, while tech giants play fetch with your privacy and wonder why you're not amused.
Bangladesh court sentences ex-PM Hasina to death, then holds trial in absentia. Justice served with a side of exile because nothing says fair trial like judging someone who's not even in the room.
European Commission predicts GDP growth for 2026 and 2027 calls it stability. Like a weather forecast promising sunshine at midnight, these predictions are pure fantasy, designed to distract while the economy dances on a knife's edge.
"95% of immigrants detained in Trump Chicago raid had no criminal conviction, yet officials claimed otherwise." Operation Midway Blitz, where the real crime is the fibbing, not the folks they're rounding up. Truth apparently is the first casualty.
Germany and Netherlands clinch World Cup 2026 spots on final day. Celebrate like it's a surprise. When your four-time champion status makes qualification feel like finding a forgotten 20 in your pocket, you know the stakes are lower than a limbo contest.
Saudi Arabia funds Luma AI's Series C round. From oil wells
Federal Reserve's rate cut rationale deemed pretty weak by Hubbard, while employment risks loom larger. When your economic strategy is as shaky as a two-legged stool, you might want to rethink your balancing act before the crash.
Mozilla CEO hails AI browser invasion as moment of resurgence while your privacy packs its bags for a long vacation. It's like calling a wolf in sheep's clothing a fashion trend. Sure, it's exciting, but someone's getting fleeced.
Investment consultants steer 17 trillions into alternatives, and they call it innovation. When your pension's future relies on the whims of a private equity wizard, remember, even magicians pull rabbits out of hats, not retirements.
Only 55% of Saudi roads meet safety standards, and a fiery crash claims dozens of pilgrim lives.
EU demands Slovenia respect Roma rights, then approves draconian crime law. Nothing says we care like a double-edged sword, one edge for justice, the other for cutting rights into confetti.
China halts seafood imports from January, blames Taiwan tension. When in doubt, blame the fish, or perhaps it's just a case of diplomatic sushi gone sour.
YouTube removes bake sale for Antifa video, claims it violates community guidelines. When revolution goes digital, even cookies and punk riffs get branded as threats. Welcome to the age where algorithms fear the power of a bake sale.
Only 2% of New Zealanders see population growth, and the government calls it progress. Looks like New Zealand's economy is running on molasses, but hey, at least the sheep aren't complaining.
Only 0% of coherent sentences emerge from Cloud Rennie 1 tis send your music, and Reddit calls it communication. When your post reads like a glitch in the metrics, it's hard to tell if you're summoning a storm or a mixtape.
YouTube promotes the Brits' Amor YPAZ video, calls it a celebration of peace. When platforms push rock ballads as revolutionary, you know even love songs must pack a punch to break through the noise of digital chaos.
Marshall Heston 120 launches at $1,300, solves restrained sound with premium style. When you've got a speaker that looks like a rock star but whispers like a librarian, you're paying for the swagger, not the roar.
Only 20% of hobby musicians get listeners, and the internet calls it exposure. Pour your heart into melodic whispers and watch the algorithm bury it beneath a mountain of cat videos and influencer drama.
MIP warns UK lawmakers about Chinese spies posing as headhunters, then expects them to dodge LinkedIn invites. When espionage gets a LinkedIn makeover, it's time to question if the next World War will be fought over who controls the networking game.
Department of Justice launches inquiry into California Victims Compensation Board, claims it's for transparency. When the watchdogs become the watched, you have to wonder if the victims ever stood a chance in this bureaucratic circus.
Germany sends long-range missiles to Ukraine, calls it a strategic shift. Looks like Germany's finally decided to play international chess instead of checkers. But let's hope they're not just pawning off the consequences.
An off-duty ICE agent allegedly detains a teenage boy at gunpoint, then claims it was a citizen's arrest training exercise. When ICE agents play cowboys with teenagers, it's clear someone's been watching too many action flicks and not enough civics classes.
Texas appeals ruling on Trump Act racial gerrymandering insists it's fair play, because nothing says democracy like drawing lines that look like a toddler went wild with a crayon, right? Gerrymandering, the adult version of hide and seek.
AC closes dozens of public schools Tuesday over asbestos fears, calls it precautionary. Apparently, nothing screams safe playground like a sandbox full of potential carcinogens. Who knew recess could be a game of toxic roulette?
Nicki Minaj spreads unfounded claims at United Nations, echoes Trump's baseless rhetoric. When your data is as elusive as a Minaj lyric, maybe stick to the stage and leave geopolitics to the professionals.
Andy Cohen advocates for more queer journalists, claiming representation is crucial. In a world where heteronormativity is the status quo, the news needs more rainbow than grayscale. Time to colour outside the lines, folks.
Lebanon reports Israeli strike killing 13 near Palestinian refugee camp, calls it self-defense. When military might meets refugee plight, humanity loses every single time. Let's hope the next ceasefire lasts longer than a commercial break.
Trump tariffs drive U.S. beef prices to record highs. When tariffs make beef as rare as a vegan in a steakhouse. Maybe it's time to rethink your economic strategy, not your barbecue plans.
Trump scores eye-popping post-election windfall, then claims he's done with politics. When a billionaire says he's quitting the game but pockets the jackpot on his way out, it's hard to tell if he's retiring or reloading.
Only 30% of brain surgeons believe bacteria can save lives, and the rest are waiting for a peer-reviewed miracle. When your best hope is an infection, maybe it's time to question both your treatment plan and your health insurance.
Israel detains hundreds without charge in reopened underground jail, calls it security. When transparency means nothing, and daylight is a luxury, every shadow becomes a weapon, and justice remains buried beneath layers of denial.
Trump plots retribution over Epstein bill, proving revenge is his favorite legislative tool. When your political strategy is a vendetta, governance becomes a reality show where everyone's a contestant and survivor. White House edition.
Immigration arrests ignite protests in Charlotte while FEMA's acting head quietly resigns. When the smoke of injustice fills the air, it seems FEMA's head decided to flee the scene instead of weathering the storm.
Chile's presidential runoff pits Jara against Cast, where democracy is a high-stakes telenovela. In the latest episode of Who Wants to Lead a Country, Chileans get to choose between a soap opera heartthrob and a reality show villain.
Trump declares economy better than ever at McDonald's summit, then calls it the golden age. Serving up promises with a side of fries, Trump redefines prosperity as a $1 menu deal, leaving millions to wonder where their Happy Meal is.
Myanmar military arrests nearly 350 in online scam hub raid, blames armed opposition groups.
Hamas breaches Gaza ceasefire, attacking IDF troops, sparking a deadly dance of retaliation as top commanders are killed. It's the Middle East's never-ending game of who blinked first, where ceasefires are as fragile as a paper peace dove in a hurricane.
The MAGA train seems to be derailing, and it turns out
Researchers studied motor cortex activity in mice during tongue reaching for rewards, claiming it unlocks secrets of goal-directed behavior. Because when you need to understand your own motivation, naturally you turn to a mouse's tongue workout routine.
NASDAQ CEO vows to make IPOs great again while cozying up to Singapore Exchange for a financial love affair. When capitalism starts borrowing slogans from failed political campaigns, you know the stock market's having an identity crisis.
Russia labels Britain as its top villain, sidelining America amid tensions over the Ukraine conflict. From the imperial era to political soap opera, Britain and Russia's rivalry evolves, now with added drama and fewer tea breaks.
Germany sets industrial electricity price at €50 per megawatt hour, leaving Italian associations sweating over competitive fairness. When Germany's power play makes Italy feel powerless, you've got a cross-border soap opera with electricity and envy as the main characters.
When a venue's resurrection involves more drama than a rock opera, you know Sheffield's about to be electrified with nostalgia and new dreams.
Prague celebrates Velvet Revolution anniversary, reminding us students once toppled a regime with courage, not hashtags. From cobblestone streets to history books, these students proved that real change doesn't need a retweet button.
British Columbia's pension fund starts quantum-proofing $210 billion, hoping to outsmart future tech before it outsmarts them. When your retirement fund enters the matrix, it's less about golden years and more about not getting digitally mugged by quantum bandits.
Congress approves bill to release Epstein files, then debates how many skeletons fit in their closets. The real question, is it transparency or just a magic trick to distract us while they pull another rabbit out of their hats?
Global markets recover slightly after $1.6 trillion loss, and Wall Street calls it a win for resilience. Imagine losing $1 trillion and still getting a participation trophy. Welcome to the financial world's version of oops.
China markets €4 billion bond solves currency diversity. When your economy's a roller coaster, you hedge your bets in every currency just to keep the ride thrilling.
Bloodhound Gang drops Lift Your Head Up High in '96, and the internet labels it a rap rock relic. When a song title doubles as bad advice, you know it's a soundtrack to teenage rebellion and questionable life choices.
When art gets tangled in political crossfire, even cartoon characters can't escape the diplomatic drama. Welcome to the theater of absurdity.
Scotland beats Denmark 4-2, clinching first World Cup spot since 1998. After 27 years, Scotland finally trades kilts for cleats on the world stage, reminding everyone that even underdogs can bark loudest.
Racial diversity on television accelerates with 44% more representation, yet only 10% of executives are people of color. The TV revolution is televised, but behind the scenes, the casting couch remains as pale as a ghost at a mayonnaise convention.
Only 61% of marketers use AI tools, and the industry calls it innovation. Marketing pros wield AI like a magic wand, hoping algorithms can conjure up customers faster than you can say clickbait.
When reality TV politics meets pop culture, you get a UN summit that's more remix than resolution.
Iran seeds clouds to induce rain, hoping to fix a drought as if magic tricks can erase climate neglect. It's like trying to fix a sinking ship with a thimble. The desert's still thirsty and the government's playing wizard with a broken wand.
Purerat malware targets hotel systems in phishing blitz, then offers no room service. When your vacation gets hijacked by cyber thieves, it's less about the view and more about the virus.
Only 8% of synthetic chemists create N-stereogenic amines, and the industry calls it cutting edge. In the world of chemistry, making a nitrogen atom feel special is like trying to make a carbon copy out of a unicorn.
Amazon scorpion venom targets breast cancer cells, then nature outdoes Big Pharma. Who knew that the Amazon's deadliest creature could offer a cure, while pharmaceutical giants keep milking us for pills that barely scratch the surface?
Shabana Mahmood claims illegal migration tears UK apart, while conveniently forgetting the government's own policies are the real wrecking ball. Blaming migrants for a broken system is like faulting the wind for a house of cards, the real demolition crews in Westminster clutching their moral mission statements.
U.S. military hits alleged drug boat, then asks, oops, was that the right one? When your military strategy involves playing whack-a-mole with boats, maybe it's time to reconsider who's steering the ship.
Only 13% of hunger strikes succeed, and a mother in Serbia calls it a last resort.
When the Senate finally uncorks a bottle of secrets, you know the vintage has been aging in a cellar of denial.
Celebrities pen poetic farewells, yet the real poetry lies in their accountants, spreadsheets, and contracts. When the rich wax lyrical, it's not art but strategic branding. Every stanza is a dollar sign, every metaphor a marketing move.
Meta recruits 11 overseas AI experts, yet still claims American innovation. When your cutting-edge tech squad needs a passport stamp, maybe it's time to update those Made in the USA stickers.
Trading one autocrat for another is like swapping chains for shackles. The names change, but the oppression remains a constant refrain.
A Texas think tank nurtured COVID skeptics. Now they control U.S. health policy. Welcome to the land where reality is a suggestion and public health is up for debate like a late-night infomercial.
Only 20% of Middle East economies thrive, and global analysts call it a miracle. In the land of oil and sand, prosperity is a lottery, and luck is the only currency accepted at this rigged casino.
Epstein's elite circle embraced him post-conviction, trading integrity for invitations. When complicity becomes a status symbol, the powerful redefine morality as just another networking opportunity. Evil isn't banal, it's well connected.
U.S. House passes bill for Epstein files release, and transparency is the new conspiracy.
Google tracks your every click, then calls it a personalized experience. Feeling empty in a world of endless content is like standing in a candy aisle with a toothache. Everything's there, but none of it satisfies.
Federal Reserve Governor warns weaker oversight risks banking chaos, yet deregulation marches on. When the fox guards the henhouse, expect an omelet of disaster. Banking safety standards aren't just guidelines, they're lifelines.
AI matchmaking apps promise eternal love. Then users file for divorce before the honeymoon ends. When your AI soulmate knows your preferences better than your spouse, you might find yourself in a menage a trois with your own algorithm.
Prime Minister Takakeshi ignites market rally, then yen, bonds and stocks crash faster than a New Year's resolution. The honeymoon's over when your economic miracle turns out to be more like a magic trick with disappearing prosperity and a rabbitless hat.
Federal court blocks Texas' new congressional map, but gerrymandering's ghost lingers. When your game plan involves bending the rules, don't be shocked when the referee calls foul. Democracy shouldn't be a choose-your-own-adventure for politicians.
Abu Dhabi Investment Authority dumps 5% of Urdu, and suddenly telecoms feel less like a safe bet and more like a bad connection. When even the oil-rich start cashing out, you know the signal's clear. It's time to hang up on your fantasies of eternal growth.
When your hand-picked crew tells you to sit down, maybe it's time to reconsider the swift. Even sycophants can't spin straw into gold forever.
UK Home Office plans increase child deportations, but Health Secretary Streeting squirms, calling it uncomfortable. When your moral compass points to uncomfortable as north,
Wall Street analysts scrutinize Walmart and Target earnings, desperate for clues on consumer health amid data drought. When your crystal ball is Walmart's checkout line, you're betting the economy on a retail roulette wheel where rollback might predict recession.
Poland accuses Russia of rail sabotage, calling it state-sponsored terror with deadly intentions. When diplomacy feels like a limp handshake, Poland hints at a more muscular response. Guess the old Cold War playbook never really got shelved, did it?
FBI and Justice Departments scramble to debunk conspiracy theories, shadows cast by their own leaders. When you light a match and fan the flames, don't act surprised when the whole house catches fire and the smoke chokes your credibility.
Leonard Lauder's $400 million art collection goes under the hammer. Capitalism calls it culture. When the wealthy auction off their heirlooms, it's the art world's equivalent of a clearance sale, where the rich get richer and the rest of us get an overpriced postcard.
Swiss exports to US dropped amid 39% tariffs. Then Trump calls it a negotiation success. When trade talks resemble a roller coaster, it's not the Swiss who are enjoying the ride. Who knew diplomacy could be this dizzying?
Google launches Gemini 3 as the next big AI leap. Solves nothing about corporate accountability. As Google polishes its AI crown with Gemini 3, remember that smarter search engines won't find the ethics they misplaced somewhere between profit margins and privacy breaches.
Supreme Court revisits Trump's asylum seeker rejection, calls it a matter of national security.
The House votes 427-1 to release Epstein files, then wonders why it took this long. After years of resistance, the files finally see daylight, proving that when political convenience aligns with public outcry, even skeletons can't hide forever.
MI5 warns MPs of Chinese espionage. Then Parliament pretends it's the plot of a bad spy novel. As MPs clutch their pearls and espionage alerts, they might ponder if their Wi-Fi passwords are as secure as their outrage.
Spotify streams Akudama's You're My Disease, claims it's therapy. When headbanging becomes self-care, you know the mental health system might need a tune-up.
Mike Pence frets over Saudi F-35 deal security, while Trump administration wants cozy with Riyadh. Pence playing watchdog on arms deals is like a fox guarding a henhouse, especially when the hens are made of stealth technology.
Only 20% of athletes retire on their own terms, and Maria Sharapova calls it wisdom. If stubbornness fuels success, but also chains you to the court, maybe the real game is knowing when to drop the racket.
Only 25% of Scottish teams reach World Cup, and Tartan fans call it a miracle. Scotland's rare World Cup appearance is like finding a unicorn in your backyard, unexpected, magical, and worthy of a national holiday.
House of Representatives seeks Epstein files, released after Trump U-turn, calling transparency the new black. When transparency is fashionably delayed by about a decade, it's less about clarity and more about which skeletons are ready for their close-up.
Hypertension impacts brain function decades earlier, and Big Pharma calls it an opportunity. Turns out, high blood pressure isn't just a silent killer, it's the brain's early saboteur, making sure our golden years come with a side of memory loss.
House condemns Rep. Quagar Sher exposes Democratic infighting as unity takes a backseat to finger-pointing. Democrats condemning their own is like watching a family dinner devolve into a food fight. Messy, loud, and no one's left with clean hands.
AI-generated cover of In the Air Tonight debuts, and Phil Collins doesn't even flinch. The digital blues might hit all the right notes, but it can't replace the raw power of an artist who once made a drum solo feel like a battle cry.
CDNR buys sealed air for $6.2 billion, but bubble wrap therapy remains priceless. When a private equity firm buys your childhood joy, you know capitalism has popped the bubbles of innocence.
Ukraine secures US LNG imports via Greece for winter, while Putin chats with oil allies. In the chess game of geopolitics, Ukraine gets a pawn's worth of warmth, while Putin plots his next move with a king's ransom in oil.
Rishi Sunak claims UK's AI strategy leads, while tech giants quietly steer the ship. The XPM's vision of a fair AI race is as believable as a unicorn at a derby, where the real winners are those selling the tickets.
Euroclear considers court action if EU confiscates Russian assets, fearing reputational fallout and a €140 billion refund. In the world of high finance, Euroclear might just be the reluctant hero in a billion-euro drama, where the plot twist is a courtroom showdown over ethics and assets.
Poland arrests suspects in rail sabotage. Foreign minister labels it Russian state terrorism. In the geopolitical blame game, it's always easier to point fingers than fix the tracks, especially when the trains are carrying more than just passengers.
Only 20% of mental health studies consider cross-disorder patterns, and researchers call it progress. Apparently, our brains don't care about the neat little boxes we shove disorders into. Who knew the mind was as rebellious as a teenager?
In a plot twist that shocks absolutely no one, peace talks come with a side of artillery. Diplomacy, now with extra explosions.
UN Security Council endorses Trump Gaza plan, ignores humanitarian concerns.
Only 10% of Jewish Republicans feel safe, and the GOP calls it a misunderstanding. When your political party's idea of a welcome mat is a history lesson in denial, maybe it's time to rethink the guest list.
Jew redraws district lines for advantage, but their own voters are lost in the maze. Turns out, when you play Tetris with democracy, sometimes the blocks just don't fit, and the game ends before you score.
NASA and European partners launch Sentinel-6B satellite, but oceans keep rising. When the world's on fire, at least we'll have front row seats to watch the sea swallow the shore.
Volkswagen cuts India EV costs by a third, then hunts for a partner to shoulder the burden.
Only 5% of Redditors understand Oz, the rear, nosebleeds, and confusion reigns supreme.
Melissa Gilbert calls out Megyn Kelly's Epstein comments, recounts her own disturbing experience at 15. From prairie tales to predatory truths, Hollywood's underbelly stays as dark as ever, reminding us that nostalgia won't save us from reality.
Moldova exploits emergency laws to muzzle media, then promotes itself as an EU candidate. When your path to European integration involves gagging journalists, it's like applying for a peace prize with a loaded gun in hand.
As tech nostalgia meets retail desperation, Newegg throws a discount phone to keep us loyal, while the planet drowns in e-waste.
Only 10% of global media covers Ethiopia's Amara conflict, and the world calls it a footnote. When women's lives are shattered in silence, the echoes of their suffering should be deafening, not dismissed as background noise.
Ukraine's government faces a massive corruption scandal while the West keeps sending money. It's like giving your drunk uncle a credit card, then acting surprised when he buys a yacht instead of groceries.
Top Dem speechwriter claims young Jews' empathy for Gaza means Holocaust education backfired because heaven forbid empathy crosses borders. When compassion becomes a PR problem, it's clear we're living in a world where history lessons are twisted into a zero-sum game of suffering.
China warns students about Japan's risks, then blames the tension on Tokyo's honesty about Taiwan. When diplomacy is a soap opera, and China's playing the role of the overprotective parent who just discovered TikTok.
Israel continues demolitions in Gaza, calling it necessary despite the ceasefire. Looks like ceasefire is just a fancy word for pause button that only one side gets to press.
Slipknot sell majority stake in music catalog for rumored $120 million because nothing says metal like hedge fund ownership. When the screams of rebellion are traded for stock options, you know the music industry's mosh pit is now a boardroom brawl.
Nature Communications reveals footprint of death vesicles, suggesting death leaves a calling card. Move over, Grim Reaper. Cells have their own business cards now. Even in death, they're networking like pros.
Only 30% of Helsinki residents report increased happiness, and the city's tourism board calls it progress. When your city's charm is measured by the number of likes on a Reddit post, you know urban bliss is now just a pixelated postcard.
Epstein emails reveal surprise character, and Trump's ties grow murkier. When the drama of the century stars Trump and Epstein, every email is a plot twist that would make Netflix blush.
Life of Agonies, My Mind is Dangerous warns listeners, yet the real danger is Spotify's playlist algorithms. With alt-rock angst as its anthem, the song reminds us that the real threat isn't the music, it's how tech giants track our every earworm.
Survivors demand Congress release Epstein files while secrets rot in the vaults of power. When truth is a hostage and justice is a mirage, the corridors of Congress echo with the whispers of the silenced begging to be heard.
Scientists discover serpent B3 heals wounds, but only after it signals a crisis. In a plot twist worthy of a soap opera, the same protein that screams danger now moonlights as a healer, proving that even our bodies can't resist a good plot twist.
Optus fined $826,000, then claims it's a victory for security. Spinning a fine as a win is like calling a flat tire a shortcut. Both require a good deal of hot air to make sense.
Larry Summers quits OpenAI board after Epstein emails leak, and the AI world sighs in collective relief. When your past associations haunt your present, Even Silicon Valley's brightest minds can't save you from the algorithm of disgrace.
When neglect becomes routine, tragedy is just an appointment away, and the system's indifference is the ultimate malpractice.
Only 30% of wealthy nations worry about climate change, while Turkey, Brazil, and India panic. When the rich ignore the planet's fever, it's the developing countries that have to sweat out the consequences, holding the thermometer.
Trump contributes to economic theory with tariff data. Yet, the global economy feels more like a victim than a student. Who knew the art of the deal involved teaching the world that tariffs are the economic equivalent of shooting yourself in the foot?
UK government mimics Trump with new migrant visa bans, then claims it's about safety. When you crib off Trump's playbook, you're not writing a new chapter, you're just penciling in more walls on the map.
Australia Wealth Fund chief warns against market intervention, yet inequality keeps rising. When the rich complain about intervention, it's like the fox warning the chickens about the dangers of fences.
China escalates Japan feud with island patrols, warns citizens to avoid sushi. When your foreign policy is a game of battleship, you know diplomacy has taken a backseat to territorial tantrums.
Gustav Klimt portrait sells for $236 million, proving even art can't escape inflation. When a painting costs more than a small nation, maybe it's not just the art market that's surreal.
Chinese coal miners chase spot price rally, dreaming annual contracts will follow suit. When your business plan relies on a market rally, it's less strategy and more wish upon a star.
MPs narrowly passed Carney's first budget, sidestepping a Christmas election nobody wanted in their stockings. When your holiday cheer relies on parliamentary brinkmanship, you know Santa's been replaced by a debt-ceiling Grinch.
UN to hear complaint on New Zealand's Maori treatment after government redefines treaty principles. When redefining history, it's amazing how often the eraser gets more use than the pen.
Cloudflare warns of service issues. Internet chaos ensues as digital life grinds to a halt. It's all fun and games until the digital overlords sneeze, and suddenly your cat videos are lost in cyberspace.
Only 40% of Pakistan's stock market rally driven by mom-and-pop investors, and brokers call it a grassroots revolution. When financial stability hinges on Uncle Akbar's spare cash, it's a high-stakes game of economic Jenga.
Only 30% of dads are stay-at-home parents, and this kid thinks his dad just watches TV all day. Turns out, breaking gender norms isn't as simple as swapping the remote for a diaper. Who knew the patriarchy had a toddler-sized attention span?
Tech stocks tumble, sinking the US market's months-long rally, and analysts spin it as a healthy correction. When Wall Street's golden geese start molting, it's a sure sign the foxes are running the henhouse.
Amazon launches a $400 coffee maker, promises caffeine enlightenment. For the price of enlightenment, you get a machine that brews the same old existential dread. Turns out the revolution will be caffeinated, overpriced, and still taste like regret.
Ro Khanna calls for new leadership, claims Chuck Schumer's future expired yesterday. When a California rep decides to play political matchmaker, you know the Democratic Party's speed dating for relevance. Schumer's dynamic replacement? Probably someone who can tell TikTok from TikTok.
House votes on Epstein files expected to pass with near unanimous support, but transparency remains a distant dream. When politicians agree faster than a speeding scandal, you know they're hiding more than skeletons in the closet.
Trump's disapproval rating plunges to new low, and he calls it fake news. When your disapproval rating is more popular than your presidency, it might be time to rethink that second-term strategy. Maybe try governing for a change.
Spotify removes Philip Shepard's Kara from playlists, blames algorithmic oversight. When your soundtrack is so emotionally moving that even algorithms can't handle it, maybe it's time to question who's really in charge of the music.
Only 25% of single parents receive adequate child support, and experts call that the justice system. Apparently, financial devastation is the new normal for single parents. Who knew heartbreak came with a price tag and 0 discounts?
Apple accelerates search for Tim Cook's successor, calls it future-proofing. When your company is so worried about one man leaving that it needs a year to plan, maybe it's time to admit he's more than just a CEO. He's the apple of their eye.
Russian GRU agent arrested in Phuket claims it was just a vacation because nothing says relaxing getaway like being wanted for a chemical attack. Who knew espionage and beach resorts were the new peanut butter and jelly?
Bain Capital bets billions on long-duration holdings, claiming patience is the new profit. In a world of instant gratification, Bain Capital's strategy is like waiting for a Polaroid to develop. If that Polaroid cost billions, it might fade before you frame it.
Scientists study feral parrots in Los Angeles as if the city needed more drama. In a town where the wildest things are usually on 2 legs, these feathered escapees are getting their own Hollywood script. Next up, Parrot Noir.
Steelers Ramsey ejected for punching Bengals as Chase because sportsmanship is so last season. In a game that should be about touchdowns, players are throwing fists instead. Maybe next time they'll just settle it with a dance-off and save us the drama.
Gold wavers amid dim Fed-cut hopes as tech stocks tremble. Like watching a toddler with a yo-yo, investors are left wondering if gold will ever find its balance or if it'll just keep tangling itself up in market jitters.
Trump claims Thanksgiving dinner will be cheaper, like a Black Friday sale on Facts. Apparently the only thing that's falling faster than turkey prices is the truth. At this rate we might be feasting on promises and side dishes of denial.
Austrian authorities discover bodies in freezers, chilling the very notion of safety. When life imitates a horror flick, it's a stark reminder that truth can be more macabre than fiction. In this icy tableau, humanity's warmth is the real missing piece.
Trump administration dismantles pandemic defenses, claims it's strategic, because nothing says prepared leadership like tossing your life jacket overboard just as the storm clouds gather, and calling it a clever new strategy.
Abu Dhabi fund triples Bitcoin bet, then watches digital dreams crash and burn. When your financial strategy mirrors a roller coaster, you better hope you're strapped in tight. But hey, who needs foresight when you've got fortune cookies?
Trump DOJ exposed for corruption, now Trump's personal law firm. When justice wears a tailored suit stitched with deceit, it seems the scales of justice have been swapped for a golden golf club.
Dubai restaurant hires AI chef for over $1 million, and it podcasts too. When a robot's cooking your steak and spilling the tea, you know the future's here. Just hope it doesn't start serving existential crises with your side of fries.
Meta wins antitrust case, keeps WhatsApp and Instagram monopoly intact.
China's €4 billion bond offering draws strong demand, proving capitalism's love affair with authoritarian regimes. When human rights are a footnote and euros are the headline, ethics become the collateral damage of global finance.
Only 10% of locals support data center growth, and big tech calls it progress. When your neighborhood becomes a server farm, you get all the buffering without the benefits. Tech giants sow data, but locals reap the chaos.
If only melting ice could drown denial faster than it submerges coastlines, maybe we'd finally see some progress.
When your CEO's AI pitch sounds like a toddler describing a dream, it's not a vision, it's a hallucination. Welcome to the bubble, where ignorance inflates the bottom line.
Trump tariffs hit Michigan with 30% price hikes while layoffs surge. Michigan's economy is now a crash test dummy for Trump's trade war. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
CAF schedules World Cup playoff, but fans predict more drama off the field than on it. With bureaucracy as tangled as a referee's whistle in extra time, will the real game be played in boardrooms instead of stadiums?
Ecuador rejects foreign military bases, dashing U.S. ambitions in Eastern Pacific. Ecuadorians just told Uncle Sam to keep his boots off their soil, proving sovereignty can't be bought with military might.
UK Home Secretary plans Danish-style immigration policy, but critics say compassion is lost in translation. When your immigration strategy borrows more from Hans Christian Andersen than human rights, you might need a new fairy tale.
Trump donors reap rewards, gain lucrative contracts during his second term. In the grand tradition of quid pro quo, political donations look more like investments with golden returns as crony capitalism thrives.
Federal court halts Texas's redrawn congressional map, citing racial discrimination. Looks like Texas tried to play connect the dots with racial lines and ended up with a masterpiece of inequality, now deemed unfit for public display.
Polish government accuses Russian secret services of rail line explosion, igniting Cold War déjà vu. When geopolitics plays out like a bad spy novel, it's time to question if the plot is written by amateurs or just the usual suspects.
House and Senate approve release of Epstein files, ignoring powerful objections. Politicians finally agree on something, airing out Epstein's dirty laundry, much to the chagrin of those who prefer skeletons remain in the closet.
When the people speak with their wallets, it's a symphony of spare change and stubborn hope challenging the rich man's orchestra.
When your wealth tax chat makes billionaires sweat more than climate change, you've hit the jackpot. Diplomacy's just the icing on this economic cake.
California Science Center installs Rocket Lab Electron, promises Space Gallery completion by 2028. It's like promising a child their dream room and delivering it when they've outgrown the theme. At least the artifacts won't age.
In the world of AI, the cost of secrets is apparently paid in billions, but don't expect any refunds on honesty.
Carson Block boosts Snowline Gold shares, while Gotham City Research predicts Iron Mountain stock will crumble by 80%. It's the financial world's version of he loves me not, where stock petals are plucked and fortunes bloom or wither.
Trump's warships boost Venezuelan bond prices, and financial morality takes a holiday. When warships and Wall Street tango, human rights and ethics are left to waltz alone in the corner.
When a mayor's side hustle involves state secrets.
Only 10% of AI content generators promise creativity, while 90% churn out the same old digital drivel. It's like hiring a robot to paint your masterpiece, only to find it finger painting with the finesse of a toddler.
Israeli army shoots Al Jazeera cameraman, then claims commitment to press freedom. Shooting the messenger takes a grimly literal turn when the cameras roll in occupied territory.
Jets bench Justin Fields, star Tyrod Taylor, then claim it's all part of a master plan. When your backup plan involves a quarterback carousel, maybe it's time to admit the playbook is more like a coloring book.
IMF urges deeper EU integration, calls it strength, while borders remain as fluid as a brick wall. In the dance of unity, Europe's tango with the IMF is more like a three-legged race.
YouTube's algorithm recommends 5 random songs, calls it discovery, but it's more like a musical blindfolded piñata swing. In the world of algorithms, serendipity is just a glitch pretending to be an angel.
Trump administration dodges Epstein files, claims transparency while dodging every subpoena. When the skeletons in your closet start demanding a parade permit, maybe it's time to rethink your wardrobe of secrets.
Jeffrey Epstein manipulates SEO to hide crimes, then calls it reputation management. In the digital age, a well-placed keyword can be more powerful than a conscience, especially when truth is the first victim.
Only 10% of new artists find fame, and Busta calls it Memescreamer. When your stage name sounds like a deli special, don't be surprised if your career ends up in a jar.
Meta's AI chatbot flunks accuracy test, claims it's still learning. When your financial advisor is more Pinocchio than Warren Buffett, it's time to reassess who's pulling the strings on your savings.
Greece repays 1.1 billion euros loan early. Le Monde calls it an unexpected benefit for France. When your debtor pays you back and you call it a surprise, maybe it's time to question your budgeting skills, Non.
NASA reveals mystery of 3 Ialis, then calls it just a rock. After a government shutdown, it's comforting to know our tax dollars are spent on confirming space gravel isn't alien tech.
When your gratitude is as self-contained as a Schrodinger's cat meme, even the internet can't decide if it's alive or dead. Donald Trump welcomes Saudi Crown Prince with open arms, denying any memory of past atrocities. Nothing like a little amnesia to grease the wheels of diplomacy, where the past is just inconvenient wallpaper for the power-hungry.
Trump promises $2,000 tariff checks by mid-2026, then blames Congress for inevitable delays. Just in time for the next election cycle, when promises are as plentiful as campaign buttons and equally forgettable.
Only 30% of listeners identify with Sour Girl, and the record label calls it nostalgia. The 90s, when angst was cool, flannel was fashion, and we all thought the future would be flying cars, not flying tweets.
Ukraine demands $44 billion from Russia for war emissions, then calls it climate justice. When bombs are the new greenhouse gas, it's clear that peace treaties might need a carbon offset clause.
Only 40% of thrash fans stream Pleasures of the Flesh, and the band calls it a cult classic. The 80s, when excess was the name of the game, and no one imagined our future would be binge-watching and doom-scrolling.
House rebukes Democratic Rep. Shy Garcia for succession scheme, then labels it a betrayal.
Trump signs bill releasing Epstein files, then claims transparency is his middle name. Yes, transparency, much like a fogged up window, clear enough to see shadows, but murky when you're looking for specifics.
Zelensky arrives with different plan, and Witkoff cancels Ankara meeting.
When your invitation says peace talks, but your guest brings a DIY diplomacy kit, it's no wonder the meeting gets ghosted.
Only 25% of single parents get adequate support, and Romero Willis calls it a struggle. When even Hollywood's offspring are drowned in solo, maybe it's time we share more than just our Instagram likes.
When your digital sous chef turns into a ransomware sommelier, it's time to rethink your recipe for cybersecurity.
When your sushi starts a geopolitical showdown, it's clear the world's gone from raw to ridiculous faster than you can say sashimi.
Only 20% of STEM force hard curiosity, and Amazon calls it educational progress. When a wind-up flashlight is the pinnacle of innovation, perhaps the real lesson is learning to see in the dark.
Laura Loomer accuses GOP of a Nazi problem, leaving irony gasping for air. When your political party critique comes from the queen of controversy, it's like getting a lecture on subtlety from a fireworks display.
Trump and Vance snubbed from Cheney's funeral, but 4 former Veeps make the guest list. When even Dick Cheney's guest list has standards, you know you've hit a new level of social pariah. Turning future minds into medical dossiers before they can even walk.
Mount Semeru erupts, covering villages in ash, and Indonesia calls it a natural spectacle. When nature throws tantrums like a rock star, the only thing left to do is sweep up the volcanic confetti and hope for an encore without the pyro.
Because nothing screams strategic like a corporate yard sale where ice cream and pretzels are the first to go.
Wall Street firms funnel billions to Bermuda, promise security while gambling away U.S. protections. Because who needs transparency and safety when you can have a tropical tax loophole and a blindfolded investment strategy?
Japan hosts record Russian tourists, then calls it cultural diplomacy. When the sushi-loving crowd arrives in droves, you know it's not just the tempura that's sizzling. It's the geopolitical dance-off with the side of wasabi.
In a world obsessed with TikTok talent, even the queen of androgynous cool finds her limits. But who needs twerking when you've got timeless charisma?
Japan sells 20-year bonds at average demand, calls it fiscal stability. When your economic strategy is as exciting as watching paint dry, you celebrate the mundane like it's a fireworks display in a spreadsheet.
Nestle accused of risking baby health sweetens profits with sugar. Ah, the classic recipe. Start with a pinch of corporate greed, mix in a dollop of infant vulnerability, and voila, a scandal fit for a boardroom brunch.
Freedom House reports internet freedom falls for 15th year, calls it progress.
It's like watching a slow-motion car crash, except the car is democracy and the crash is happening in your living room. Welcome to the future. Enjoy your cage.
South African bankers declare optimism, then ignore economic inequality. Nothing like a good news binge to make bankers forget the country's wealth gap is wider than a Kardashian's closet.
DOJ fumbles protection of trans immigrant. Lawyers fear for her safety. Oops, just another day at the Department of Justice, where justice is apparently a loose term for endangering lives with clerical errors. Who knew bureaucracy could be this lethal?
Playing Monopoly with real money. Trump's checks could buy everyone a Park Place, but instead it's just a ticket to economic whiplash.
Trump claims affordability raises deficit by $2 trillion. His economic strategy is like calling a gold-plated yacht a budget-friendly dinghy. Looks shiny, but it still sinks your savings.
Nothing says, "We've got it under control," like a 6% failure rate celebrated as progress. It's like complimenting a storm for only flooding half the city.
Only 2% of people understand NFTs, and tech bros call it innovation. It's like selling digital air to a fish, confounding, overpriced, and yet somehow considered revolutionary by those who profit.
Federal Reserve postpones decision and aluminum and copper prices drop. When the economy is on pause, metals take a nosedive, leaving investors holding a bag of devalued rocks and dashed hopes.
Valor Atomics claims nuclear startup first, achieves criticality with borrowed expertise. There's nothing like a first that leans on someone else's shoulders. It's like winning a race by hitching a ride in someone else's car.
ACA subsidy extension flounders as Democrats reject GOP ideas and Republicans can't agree. It's a classic Capitol Hill standoff, political gridlock where healthcare is the hostage. Meanwhile, Americans play the waiting game with their well-being on the line.
Only 20% of Android bugs are memory-related, and Rust adoption is hailed as the savior. It seems like Rust is the new duct tape for Android, patching up the leaks while the rest of the codebase holds its breath.
It's like a global game of Risk, with Trump moving pieces on the board while Russia and China pretend they forgot the rules. Pieces never look so fragile.
Merz and Macron vow to strengthen Europe's digital sovereignty while still glued to American tech's shiny allure. It's like declaring independence while borrowing your neighbor's Wi-Fi password. Europe's digital sovereignty might need more than a summit to unshackle from Silicon Valley's embrace.
Disney drops a teaser for Moana's live-action remake, because nostalgia is always cheaper than originality. When creativity takes a holiday, just reboot an animated classic with real people and call it a fresh vision.
Top U.S. officials meet in Ukraine to end war with Russia, while the Pentagon stocks up on popcorn for Act 3. Diplomacy or theater? When the curtain falls, it's the civilians who get caught in the crossfire, while the powers post selfies with peace doves.
Trump brushes off Khashoggi murder with things happen and claims ignorance is a defense strategy. Nothing says global leadership like shrugging off a journalist's murder while cozying up to oil-rich royalty.
Beijing's research output jumps 9%, Shanghai up 20%, while US cities' output declines, and they call it strategic retreat, as American cities brainstorm.
Trump administration blocks scientists from climate summit, leaving the US to ponder which reality TV star will handle climate data next. With federal scientists sidelined, maybe we should just ask the Kardashians about CO2 levels. After all, they've got more airtime than any climatologist.
Only 10% of missing kayakers are found, and this kayaker turned disappearance into an endurance sport. The ultimate hide-and-seek champion, proving once again that sometimes the best way to be found is to stay lost.
YouTube Music promotes YOU feat. Trikes beats, promising listeners something new, yet sounding suspiciously like every other auto-tuned anthem. In a world where originality is extinct, we're left wondering if AI-generated pop will become the next big hit, or just the next big headache.
Larry Summers denies wrongdoing, yet his Epstein ties unravel at the seams of his credibility. In the political theater of accountability, Summers plays the lead in the tragicomedy of selective amnesia.
Only 5% of YFM 1118 fans engage with Lit Legend, and the artist calls it a viral sensation. When even underground legends beg for likes and shares, it's clear that the music industry is less about the beat and more about the algorithm.
Donald Trump declares America First a success, despite allies questioning the logic. When your biggest achievement is making pears sound like a geopolitical strategy, it's no wonder the world is left scratching its head.
Kirby Air Riders launches with minimalist charm, leaving Mario Kart's complexity in the rear-view mirror. While Mario Kart drowns in chaos, Kirby opts for a breezy drift through simplicity, proving sometimes less is more, unless you're a plumber.
Elon Musk's Grokipedia promotes white nationalist content, calls it a knowledge revolution. When your revolution includes racial pseudoscience, it feels less like progress and more like a history class taught by a conspiracy theorist.
When the industry churns out formulaic hits, finding a genuine song like Blood Moon Memory is like spotting a unicorn in a sea of assembly line ponies.
Eminem sues Swim Shady for trademark infringement because irony is not always a defense. When your beachwear brand gets dragged into court by a rap icon, you might want to rethink your naming strategy, unless you're ready to lose yourself in legal fees.
India pledges climate targets by December, then delays action until the heat becomes unbearable. Promises to protect the planet are like New Year's resolutions, easy to make, hard to keep, especially when coal is still king.
German finance chief claims China tripped mended fences, then returns to Europe with a suitcase full of empty promises. When diplomacy is just a fancy word for pretending your biggest economic rival is your best friend. It's no wonder the only thing that got bridged was the gap between reality and political spin.
When your national cuisine's a cocktail of sugar, salt, and preservatives, it's like calling a candy store a health spa.
Citadel predicts S&P 500 hitting 7,000, claiming a healthy pullback paves the way. When Wall Street calls a dip healthy, it's like saying your ship's sinking is just a refreshing swim.
Total Energy's CEO warns Europe against US LNG dependency and continues cashing in on fossil fuel chaos. When the guy selling the oil tells you to be careful with your gas, you know the energy game is just a giant roulette wheel where every spin costs the planet a little more.
U.S. Rep. Cherphilus McCormick indicted for stealing $5 million in disaster funds, then condemns misinformation. The classic political two-step. Deny, deflect, and dance around disaster cash like it's a piñata at a scandal party.
Only 23% of retracted medical articles had female authors, and yet they still call it progress. In the world of male-dominated mistakes, women can't even get equal blame for scientific oopsies. Who knew glass ceilings extended to retraction slips?
Danish PM Frederiksen embraces anti-elite rhetoric, risks losing Copenhagen for first time ever. When a left-leaning leader starts sounding like a populist, it's like watching a vegan endorse steak. Everyone's confused and the cows are still not impressed.
Cartel shares soar 92% since May, but lockup expiry threatens the joyride. When early investors unleash their shares, will the market's love affair with cattle crash or just hit a speed bump? Stay tuned for the plot twist.
Ramp secures $32 billion valuation as Eric Lyman spins yet another funding round. Just remember, when valuations climb like a roller coaster, the descent can be just as thrilling. Hold on tight, investors, and hope those safety bars lock in place.
Private equity firms siphon Americans' nest eggs, creating a loan revolution that benefits the top 1%. Transforming retirement savings into Wall Street's plaything is like turning your grandma's cookie jar into a casino. Everyone loses but the house, and grandma's left with crumbs.
Louvre shutters Campana Gallery over Beam issues, leaving 8.7 million visitors craving culture in 2024. When even the Mona Lisa needs a hard hat, you know the art world is cracking under the pressure. Perhaps it's time to paint some structural integrity into those masterpieces.
Only 2% of U.S. jails provide prenatal care, yet authorities claim they prioritize inmate health. When the system treats expectant mothers like contraband, perhaps it's time to cuff the conscience of justice and deliver some humane reform.
Populist insurgents dismantle traditional parties, yet offer little more than chaos wrapped in nationalism. Trading political parties for populist movements is like swapping a leaky boat for a paper one. Different vessel, same sinking feeling, and everyone's still wet.
Victorian Liberals attempt leadership coup, but the applause suggests they're just clapping for chaos. When the sound of clapping drowns out accountability, you know it's just another political pantomime with no real plot twist.
Coroner's advice on maternal deaths ignored, and the silence is deafening. When 2/3 of maternal deaths happen in hospitals, it's not just the mothers who are being neglected. It's our so-called healthcare system, too.
Ginger and Grammarly both claim supremacy, but neither can fix the mess that is your ex's love letter. Choosing between them is like picking the lesser of two evils in a spelling bee. They'll catch typos, but not your emotional baggage.
Tiny AI model beats massive LLMs at logic tests, defying size norms. Who knew that sometimes less is more? The real puzzle here is why the logic deficient giants needed so much data to be outsmarted by a David in a world of Goliath.
Redditors call for playlist collaboration, yet the only genre missing is peace and quiet. Inviting the internet to curate music is like asking cats to organize a library, chaotic, unpredictable, and someone's bound to shred the classics.
Trump defends Tucker Carlson, whose interview with Nick Fuentes split Republicans, proving unity is just a myth. When your party's most consistent trait is division, it seems the only glue holding them together is the tape over their mouths. Who knew anti-Semites were the new party planners?
Australia's wealth fund increases gold holdings, claims it's ready for economic shocks.
Trump strips service members of retirement benefits, then calls it fiscal responsibility. Because nothing says thank you for your service. Quite like a swift kick to your retirement dreams, maybe next they'll get a coupon for discounted patriotism.
When fiction meets reality.
B. Riley Financial Inc. files report reveals $12 million loss instead of promised profit. Looks like someone swapped their rose-colored glasses for a pair of reality bifocals. Next time, try estimating with a calculator instead of a magic 8-ball.
Trump accuses health insurers of greed, then praises pharmaceutical giants. In the game of political whack-a-mole, it's all about who gets the golden mallet and who gets the public flogging. Spoiler, Big Pharma wins again.
Only 20% of unions achieve success, and syndicalist Rasmus Bakker calls it untapped potential. In a world where workers' rights are treated like mythical beasts, it seems most unions are still hunting with slingshots instead of spears. Time to sharpen those tools and aim for the jugular.
Ah, that sweet, dissonant symphony of existential dread. Lou Reed's legacy, proving you can't overdose on too much reality.
Only 40% of joint vacations end with mutual satisfaction, and Carlotta calls it fair. When you're stuck advocating for something as basic as splitting the bill, it's less a vacation and more an unpaid internship in diplomacy. Maybe next year leave the fairness scale at home and pack a megaphone.
House blocks GOP Rep. Nancy Mace's censure effort against Corey Mills calls it unity. In the grand circus of political posturing, blocking accountability is like putting a band-aid on a bullet wound and calling it a wellness retreat. Unity or impunity, it's all in the branding.
Top US Army officials visit Kiev, promise peace and tech sharing, forget to mention the price tag. When military brass start talking peace, you know they've got a new toy to sell. War is just diplomacy with a sales pitch.
Lowe's beats earnings expectations, outpaces Home Depot on sales, as if capitalism were a zero-sum game. In the battle of the DIY titans, Lowe's hammers Home Depot with profits while the rest of us can't afford a hammer.
Only 0% of today's pop stars can match Sinatra's swagger. Yet the music industry calls it innovation. In the age of auto-tune, icons like Sinatra, Genesis, and Chaka Khan remind us that raw talent and genuine artistry once ruled the charts. Now we're left with cookie-cutter beats and recycled hooks masquerading as progress.
While the grill boasts a fancy AI named Vera, it seems all she does is add a pinch of tech glam to a sizzle that's already been mastered by human hands. Who knew that flipping burgers needed a neural network?
Samsung shifts production from DDR5 RAM to HBM for NVIDIA AI chips, prioritizing silicon over gamers' digital dreams. It's a classic tale of tech betrayal, gamers left in the dust while AI gets the golden ticket to memory heaven.
Federal Reserve moles rate hike, gold wavers like a nervous bride. In a world where the value of gold dances to the tune of Federal Reserve whispers, one wonders if the shiny metal's next move will be the cha-cha or the two-step.
Amazon teams up with Ford to sell used cars online, treating vehicles like discounted blenders. From browsing books to buying Buicks, Amazon's turning your next car purchase into a Prime Day impulse buy.
US House votes on Epstein files release, calls it transparency. When the lawmakers finally decide to air out the dirty laundry, you'd think they'd at least use a stronger detergent. Or maybe they're just hoping the stench will blend in with the usual political funk.
Federal Reserve shifts narrative harder than Nvidia stock, proving unpredictability is the only constant. When central bankers outpace tech stocks in mood swings, you know the economy's as stable as a cat on a Roomba.
Irish Farmers Association claims Journal probe undermines EU Mercosur deal, spins it as a threat. When exposing inconvenient truths becomes a bigger scandal than the shady deals themselves. You know the farmers aren't the only ones spreading manure.
And Z CEO apologizes for customer mistreatment.
When the small fish
GMI Cloud invests $500 million in Taiwan AI data center, promises to revolutionize server farms with NVIDIA chips. When your server farm costs $500 million and runs on promises, you better hope the cloud doesn't rain on your parade.
Ukraine inks deal for 100 French-made Rafale warplanes, but peace remains out of stock. When you're shopping for jets like their baguettes, maybe it's time to rethink the menu.
Hoekstra accuses Canada of meddling in US politics.
claims restarting trade talks will be as easy as herding cats. Blame the neighbors when your house is on fire, because nothing says diplomatic finesse like pointing fingers across the border.
When espionage is as easy as sending a connection request, maybe the real spies are the friends we made along the way.
Defense attorney blasts DOJ mortgage investigations, suggesting James and Cook are victims of a witch hunt in suits and ties. When justice wears blinders, it's amazing how often it trips over its own shoelaces while hunting for scapegoats.
When skyscrapers dream of green.
Trump accuses Democrats urging military to resist illegal orders of seditious behavior, punishable by death, then calls it patriotism. When accountability is treason and treason is patriotism, it seems the dictionary is the next book on the banned list.
Trump and Vance not invited to Cheney's funeral, all 4 living ex-vice presidents attending, then call it a bipartisan reunion. When even Dick Cheney's ghost prefers the company of ex-vice presidents to yours, it might be time to reassess your RSVP strategy.
Keith Urban performs Pink Pony Club at Mar-a-Lago. Trump attends, then nods to lyrics about a queer heaven. When country meets camp in the halls of power, even the chandeliers blush at the irony.
Saudi Arabia scores non-NATO ally status, lands F-35 deal, then buys more than just American friendship. When friendship comes with a price tag and wings, you know, diplomacy's gone full retail therapy.
Transportation Secretary Duffy vows air travel civility while airlines charge for seat belts and smiles. When civility means paying extra to avoid elbows and eye rolls, you know turbulence isn't just in disguise.
House passes bill to release Epstein files, but transparency is as rare as a billionaire's guilty conscience. When it takes an act of Congress to open the vault of secrets, the real treasure is what they're still hiding.
Only 7% of new music releases ignite interest, and this chaotic high tea is as soothing as a punk rock lullaby. When your Sunday sip comes with a side of dissonance, it's less about the tea and more about the tempest in the teapot.
Deutsche Bank targets high-carbon sector deals, calls it energy transition. When the fox guards the henhouse, you can bet those renewable feathers are just for show.
Fed's Waller justifies December rate cut with weak job market, while unemployment lines grow longer than his rationale. When the only thing dropping faster than interest rates is job security, you know someone's cashing in on your misfortune.
Chinese hackers exploit Anthropic's AI for automated cyber espionage, proving even machine learning has a dark sense of humor. When your AI's new side hustle is espionage, it's time to rethink those terms and conditions.
Only 30% of traders trust market stability, and Bloomberg insists it's merely a wobble. When financial forecasts sound like a toddler's first steps, maybe it's time to invest in bubble wrap.
Albanian PM slams Home Secretary for stereotyping, then says stereotypes are taxpayer funded.
When politicians start blaming entire nations for budget line items, it's like claiming your bad haircut is the barber's nationality.
Indonesia's Semeru volcano erupts, spewing ash clouds 2 kilometers high. When Mother Nature decides to throw a tantrum, she doesn't just flip a table, she flips the whole damn island.
New York pension giant demands answers on Trump tariffs' economic impact. When Wall Street titans start sweating over trade wars, you know someone's golden parachute might just turn into a lead weight.
Jeff Bezos reportedly returns as co-CEO of AI startup Project Prometheus, aiming to rekindle the tech flame. Guess the billionaire space cowboy missed the thrill of ground-level chaos and the smell of startup sweat and tears.
When your career path turns into a gig economy detour, it's less about upward mobility and more about delivering dreams in 30 minutes or less.
Home Depot's stock plunges after sunny skies, blames the weather for people not needing more hammers. In a twist of irony, good weather means bad business for Home Depot, who knew sunshine could rain on their parade.
Trump flips on Epstein files release, now claims national security is at risk. When skeletons in the closet start rattling too loudly, it's amazing how quickly transparency becomes a dirty word.
Only 30% of AI decisions are explainable, and tech giants call it a breakthrough. When your new overlord can't explain its own decisions, maybe it's time to question who's really in control.
Only one family dinner can be saved, and the gift is now a conversation starter. When your intimate surprise becomes mom's new mantelpiece centerpiece, it's time to redefine sharing is caring before the next holiday meltdown.
Hong Kong bankers predict real estate recovery by 2030 as property values continue to nosedive. When your financial crystal ball is as clear as a smoggy skyline, it's time to wonder if those property portfolios are just monopoly money.
Bain forecasts luxury goods growth in 2026, while the average shopper still can't afford organic milk. When your Hermes bag appreciates faster than your savings account, it's clear the economy's only luxury is irony.
Alaska tribal nations demand input on Canadian projects, but Trudeau's government prefers whispers from corporate boardrooms.
UK Home Office considers boosting payments to failed asylum seekers, yet still spends millions on deportation theatrics. When the carrot grows, the stick gets sharper, and the taxpayers foot the bill for both.
Ramp valued at $32 billion after $300 million raise, redefining how much green it takes to disrupt capitalism. When unicorns sprint faster than regulations, we're left chasing rainbows with empty wallets.
Democrats lead Republicans by 12 points in polls, but Congress still can't pass a climate bill. It's like winning a gold medal for best intentions while the planet burns and the band plays on.
Indiana homeowner charged with manslaughter after killing house cleaner who went to wrong address, claiming self-defense in a world of misplaced mail. When your GPS mistake gets you a death sentence, maybe it's time to upgrade our humanity software before our home security systems.
US oil stockpiles increased by 10 million barrels, yet prices still dance to the sanctions shuffle. It's the energy world's version of musical chairs, where everyone sits on their own moral ambiguity.
Keyless car theft devices sell for £20,000 online, while manufacturers call it a feature of convenience. When your car's more open than a politician's wallet, maybe it's time to rethink what keyless really means.
Bitcoin wipes out $600 billion, yet Wall Street calls it a temporary correction. When your faith is more volatile than the currency you worship, maybe it's time to diversify your gods.
Only 32% of American students meet math proficiency, and the Department of Education calls it progress. When did math class become an episode of Survivor, where everyone wins, but no one's actually solving the puzzle?
Manon and Rowan promise resilient finance, yet markets are still as fragile as a crystal chandelier in a bullfight. If your financial system needs a constant pep talk, maybe it's time to question who's holding the megaphone.
Only 50% of teens understand consent, yet schools teach safe choking methods.
Neo-Nazi leader admits plan to poison NYC kids with candy, still claims it was for a greater good. When your greater good involves candy-coated murder, maybe you've misunderstood the entire concept of humanity.
Markets are when your entire financial strategy hinges on one company's report.
Bitcoin plunges 30% since October peak, leaving leveraged traders trapped in a digital quicksand. When your financial strategy mirrors a high-stakes game of Jenga, don't be surprised when the whole tower comes crashing down.
Only 14% of affiliates succeed with CJ, and the rest call it a learning experience. When your business plan sounds like a reality TV pitch, expect more drama than dollars.
Nick Fuentes gains notoriety, becoming more than just a fringe figure, yet mainstream media struggles to define him without amplifying his voice. When your claim to fame is being not just another boogeyman, maybe it's time to reconsider your career path.
European Commission proposes AI-friendly GDPR revisions and privacy advocates call foul. When lawmakers try to retrofit privacy laws for AI, it's like fitting a jet engine to a tricycle. Expect turbulence and a crash landing.
Patrick Mahomes' signed yearbook auction ends soon, promising nostalgia at a price only die-hard fans could justify. Because nothing screams investment opportunity like a teenage scribble from a future NFL star.
SpiderCat's Redis database fails connection, still claims stability. When a database connection flops like a fish out of water, calling it stable is like labeling a sinking ship buoyant.
Because when in doubt, always blame the stars for your database disasters.
Only 2% of eukaryotic lineages remain unsolved, and scientists claim it's a breakthrough. When you're down to 2% of the mystery, it's like finding the last puzzle piece under the couch, unless it's shaped like a banana.
Because nothing says sound economic policy like playing financial Jenga with a blindfold on.
Scientists uncover chameleon spiraled optic nerves, then call it a revolutionary discovery 2 millennia late. Turns out, these tiny lizards have been flexing their biological Wi-Fi long before we even dreamed of multitasking.
Zelensky dismisses new US peace plan, then asks for more military aid. When your peace plan's rejected faster than a Tinder date, maybe it's time to swipe left on diplomacy and right on reality.
Only 20% of pop songs truly surprise, and Deathwish Casanova calls it intuition. In a world where every chorus sounds like deja vu, these alt-pop rebels might just be the musical mind readers we've been waiting for.
Optoreach claims to streamline outreach, then suggests you're still a human. When your software is selling personalization, but you're just another cog in the automation machine, maybe it's time to reach out with a heart, not a bot.
Indian bank stocks hit new peak, then investors pray it's not a mirage. As foreign interest swells like a monsoon, let's hope these banks don't take a page from the Titanic and set sail straight into an iceberg of bad loans.
If the future's written in war, maybe it's time we start hiring generals who can read between the lines and avoid drafting tragedy.
The EU plans to eliminate cookie banners by shifting consent to your browser, then calls it user empowerment. Trading 1,000 clicks for a single setting, the EU's browser revolution might just save your sanity from the cookie apocalypse.
Only 30% of Ukrainians feel optimistic, and Russian state TV calls it a victory. When your enemy's best propaganda is your people's dwindling hope, maybe it's time to redefine what winning actually means.
Jeff Bezos launches new AI startup with himself as CEO, then claims it's a fresh perspective. Because nothing screams innovation like the same billionaire at the helm, ready to automate the world into his own image.
University of Sydney reports 42% of Australians face childhood trauma.
Nvidia earnings loom as stocks drop, wiping out $1.6 trillion globally.
Oil prices drop after Zelensky agrees to US-Russia peace plan draft because peace is bad for business. It's astounding how the prospect of peace can send oil prices tumbling. Who knew tranquility was such a market disruptor?
U.S. universities face surge in anti-Semitism investigations post-October 7th, despite pledges for inclusive campuses. Because nothing says welcome like a spike in hate, turning campuses into battlegrounds of broken promises.
Hedge fund dismisses bubbles as non-predictive, then continues to blow hot air. Apparently, the only thing less reliable than a market bubble is the hedge fund trying to convince us they're irrelevant.
UEFA pits Spain against Turkey for 2026 World Cup qualifier, yet the real winner is FIFA's advertising revenue. Because nothing screams beautiful game like squeezing passion into a commercial break and a corporate logo.
Senate to pass Epstein Files Transparency Act. Trump claims indifference. When the truth's too hot to handle, indifference becomes the best political sunscreen.
Theatrics aside, when justice drags out over a decade, it often feels more like a soap opera than a swift verdict.
Irish labourer buried alive for 61 days documentary claims it was art. Because nothing screams cultural enrichment like playing hide and seek with mortality in a box underground, all for the sake of spectacle.
New heart disease calculator predicts 30-year risk, but who wants to plan 3 decades of worrying? Why wait for 30 years of anxiety when you can start panicking about your heart health today?
Kessler twins choose to die together at 89, legal and dignified. In a world where synchronized swimming gets more airtime than synchronized dying, these sisters took one last step in perfect harmony.
Trump's niece calls him a despicable pig, but insists pigs deserve better comparisons. When even farm animals are out of your league, maybe it's time to reconsider your insults.
Only 12% of Trump's closest allies remain loyal, and his legal team calls it solidarity. When loyalty's thinner than a billionaire's tax return, even the allies start looking like frenemies with subpoenas in their pockets.
U.S. Treasury stops minting pennies, claims its progress, though vending machines weep. As the penny rolls into history's piggy bank, we're left wondering if the nickel is next on the chopping block.
Iron ore shipments hit record high in October, and Australia's government calls it sustainable growth. When the planet's resources are bled dry faster than a politician's promise, records become the new normal and sustainability the punchline.
North Macedonian court tries 35 people for nightclub fire, justice delayed but not forgotten. With more defendants than safety measures, this trial might just be the hottest ticket in town, if only the stakes weren't so tragically high.
John Cochrane blames central banks for inflation, ignoring corporate profiteering. When the sea rises, Blame the tide makers, not the oil-slicked ships riding high on their own waves of avarice.
US approves $500 million Patriot launcher upgrades for Ukraine, calls it defensive diplomacy. It's the arms race equivalent of a makeover show, same old military-industrial complex, now with a fresh coat of geopolitical tension.
In a world where some still march backward, it's refreshing to hear punk's middle finger raised with a righteous fury that never fades.
Working Families Party backs challenger to John Fetterman, declares it a grassroots revolution. It's like trying to swap out a punk rocker for a boy band in the middle of a riot. Good luck with that, folks.
Alabama Public Television mulls PBS divorce, citing cultural clash. When your state's education strategy mirrors a soap opera breakup, you know the plot twist involves more reruns of closed minds than open dialogue.
Bob Diamond touts healthy correction in risk assets, but investors feel the pinch.
BlackRock ejects Tony DeSpirito and
Because nothing screams unity like moving tanks faster than tourists, right? Maybe next they'll make a diplomatic Autobahn.
California home detonates, injures 8, and authorities still blame faulty wiring. When your house is the latest blockbuster, but you didn't sign up for the pyrotechnic special effects package.
Florida tops foreclosure charts, Tampa crowned epicenter of housing distress. When your state's housing market is more distressed than a reality show marriage, maybe it's time to rethink those beachfront condos.
Only 20% of Asia's trade execs trust economic forecasts, and yet Wall Street calls it confidence. When crystal balls are murkier than a politician's promises, but hey, let's bet the farm on it anyway.
Tesla plans to deploy robot army, calls it innovation.